Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Badass University All-Stars. We are just about to actually kick off week number 6, and things right here could not get more intense. The top roughly 5 or 6 teams for the time being, they're practically battling it out neck and neck to make sure that they end up in the top 4. Points are really tight between a lot of these teams right over here. That does mean that pressure is starting to run high for the last couple of weeks that we've got here in Season 2. My name is Tudors, and alongside me, I've got the birthday boy, as you can see. He's just turned 21, legally now able to drink in the United States. Should he ever visit, it's none other than Whippet. Happy birthday, my guy.
Well, thank you. I couldn't think of a better way of celebrating it than being here watching some fantastic University Siege alongside you on the virtual caster desk. I can't wait. And well, I've seemingly donned a new hat. Thank you to our wonderful producer for sorting that out. It's far better than some of the other plans I have heard for for stuff to appear. So I'll count my blessings. It's only a hat. But as you were mentioning, we are getting to the business end of this season 2 of the Badass University All Stars, meaning the pressures are running high. What teams can make that run into the top 4? And well, today we have some exciting action, so we have a little bit of a schedule up for you. We've got 3 exciting games on the way. So coming up today is very exciting matchups indeed. Is our very first one, Chimp Hunters versus Imperium of Mandem at the top of the table. They're going to be battling out who can take the lead off each other. Froggers versus Sniper Monkeys, a massive game for the Sniper Monkeys. They have lots to prove in this matchup. Can they come big of their promises? And Randy Ravens versus the Minutemen. Minutemen, yet they get going in this season. It looks pretty gloomy for them, but can they pull a rabbit out of the hat and get a massive results against Randy Ravens, who have been steadily improving and putting on great results every single Playday, every single match? They are improving. So I really am excited to see what they can show coming out of the gates of that matchup.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, well, personally speaking, the first matchup that we actually have got on our hands for the time being is arguably going to be the most exciting one of the batch for the time being. Chimp Hunters versus Imperium of Mandem. We are going to slowly but surely and eventually actually pull up the standings for you guys so you can take a look and see exactly what's going on in the league for the time being. But Chimp Hunters and IOM, they are currently tied for points for the time being, and they are in contention for actually, well, keeping their spot in that top 4, specifically Chimp Hunters. As you can see, they both have 10 points to their names, and obviously to make playoffs, to make the finals this season, you have got to be within that top 4. So IOM, they've got to pull out all the stops right over here to make sure that Chimp Hunters don't necessarily stand that large of a chance to overtake them later on. But obviously, that's all to come. The one thing that I actually do want to draw our attention to is Team Trident. They're going to be playing tomorrow, but they have had a bit of a rough week this past couple of playdays, if I'm not mistaken. They actually did play against the Princesses. One minor slip up, 7-4 was the score line, and they were currently sat, or previously last week, they were sat on pole, on spot numero uno, and then zoom, everybody just overtook them in the span of a couple of matches. So that's a bit unfortunate, but we'll see exactly if Team Trident can regain their stature tomorrow. But for now, Chimp Hunters and IOM, that is our opening matchup, and there is all to play for between these two squads.
One thing I really want to highlight when we're looking at our standings is the amount of teams that are so close to each other in points. We saw, I believe, a block of 3 of them are on 10 points. Then we saw Trident on 9. All of these teams are within striking distance of each other. It will not take much of an upset result or anything to really turn the tide of this. We witnessed it 2 play days ago, where none of the top teams scored points, and that completely shook up who was in that top 4, everyone's standings, and left the door kind of wide open to what we found ourselves in, kind of being a bit of a sprint race to conclusion. We've only got a limited number of games left for all of these teams to make their final attempt of placing themselves in the top 4, and well, one big performance from any of these teams can drastically disrupt the tide of battle and change entire landscapes.
Definitely. And as things stand right now, the one goal that a lot of these teams actually do want to achieve for the time being is avoiding overtime. Basically, to the best of their abilities, they've got to avoid overtime because they don't necessarily want to end up with either 2 or 1 points being added up to their total. Obviously, a lot of these teams want to walk away with 3 points from each and every single matchup because that does technically, well, solidify their potential chances at working their way into the top 4, and that is exactly what both IOM and Chimp Hunters do want to accomplish. But I've got a tingling sensation that overtime may be on the cards between these two squads because they have been so evenly matched. Well, obviously, given their past performances last week as well, but also given the fact that they are relatively neck and neck with each other. There's basically only a +7 rounds that actually differentiate these two squads in general. So this first matchup that we're going to see tonight, I want to see go to overtime because both of these two squads, they really deserve as many points as possible, but at the end of the day, 2 or 1 points simply won't cut it if they want to solidify the top 4. Both of these two squads, they arguably do want to walk away with 3 points, but we'll just have to wait and see.
Certainly, so I really have to agree with that. All of these teams, because again, once you go in overtime, you lose your availability to take all 3 points, even if you get that victory. now at the business end, even dropping a single point in that victory can feel like a defeat, knowing that the team underneath you, if they just get a win, well, all of a sudden, if not only if they could overtake you, but you get leaves to very vulnerable to be in that striking distance the next Playday. So very intriguing, few intricate battles coming up in these next 2 days. I cannot wait to dive into them. We do have our rosters ready for the matchup ahead of us now, and well,
Indeed, we do.
I am cursed with names, so I'm going to throw you under the bus, and off you go.
At some sort of point, don't get me wrong, you're gonna have to learn how to pronounce some of these names, but you know what, fine, I'll throw you a bone this one week.
I can do it in server, I can do it when they're playing, but whenever I see them on the roster screen, my brain somewhat leaks from my ears, and I forget how to English.
It leaks from your ears. That doesn't seem biologically possible. Usually it comes out of your nose. But regardless, let's go ahead and start off with the Chimp Hunters. We've got Where Is Mo, Sondanos, Angelo, Bullet, as well as Atlantic. Unfortunately, I myself didn't necessarily get to catch up with their past couple of performances. I didn't necessarily review their VODs from last week, which is a bit unfortunate, so I can't necessarily attest to much of these players all in all, but some of the standout names that you've got to keep your eyes peeled towards, those are going to be Angelo, those are going to be Bullet, as well as Sondanos. They have been pulling in so many massive performances at the very, very start of the season, and they are going to continue to do so as well in this here matchup. But shifting gears ever so slightly, Imperium of Mandem, my oh my, did they put on a whopping performance last week against the Coconuts. That particular matchup on Oregon went the full distance, not necessarily all 15 rounds, instead 14, and IOM were able to close that one off 8-6 in overtime. And the star player who shone the brightest was actually Angelix, quite literally dropping 21 kills, basically plus one-ing Dicta's performance on the side of the Coconuts by a single frag as well. Not necessarily breaking the record that we had seen Max D place at the very, very start of the season, but just short of it. We've got Scipio, Angelix, Rose, DJ7, as well as the Dob. Obviously, like I said, Angelix, I'm expecting this particular player to perform right here tonight, because it would be a shame if they didn't, given exactly how ruthless they were last week. But those are the 10 gladiators that we will see in the opening arena matchup tonight. And, well, I can't be more excited to actually hop into the action. But before we do so, we do also have to go and select our battleground.
Then that will be a very important part of this, because no matter where we go, no matter what map, well, actually, the map has a massive, kind of really can add and subtract from this. But of course, our auto bans are coming through now. So Oregon and Clubhouse, very common maps to get played, part of what I would call the T4 trifecta. They're not going to be available for either of these teams. Automatically banned out. They were played last week, of course.
Nice.
So, I love this auto ban system. It means we're safe. I'm blessed from out where we don't have to see Oregon every single Playday. It's fantastic.
I know. It is fantastic. I do really, really love the auto ban system, but once again, each and every single time that we do see Oregon, unironically, you know, both of us, we hate it with a burning passion, yet teams, they're able to put on the most massive performances on Oregon, and I really, really hate a lot of people for actually doing that, but hey, it is what it is. Those two maps are going to be scrapped clean off. Consulate and Coastline are next to go, meaning that there is only one last sea that is actually standing. Chalet could potentially be played.
Oh, I would love that. Chalet, again, the newest addition to the competitive pool, but something I feel has so much of the give inside of this competitive scene for the current climate we're in with this competitive meta. It's one of the best maps. Excitement galore, action-packed verticality, new angles showing up every single time you're seeing it played. So will any of these teams take the gamble and bring us to a trip to the French Mount Alps? I really hope so. It would be really nice, but we're getting ready. Yeah. They're coming through now. So these are going to be it. And that's going to be Chalet banned out, joined by Villa, leaving us to go to cafe. We can sit back, we can relax. Perhaps I can even have myself a birthday cake in the wonderful cafe on the lovely shores of the Moscow River. It's going to be a great old time. Cafe, a classic map, one of my favorites, and sure to provide some exciting action between the Chimp Hunters and the Imperium of Mandem.
It has been quite a while since I've actually had the pleasure of casting Cafe myself. I can't even remember exactly how long ago it was, and I was actually sitting and watching some LATAM as well as some EU last night. There were a couple of Cafe matches being played around here, and then I thought to myself, hey, it's been a while since I casted Cafe Dostoevsky, so hopefully I'll get the chance to do it on Monday night at BOAL, and lo and behold, Cafe is going to be the first match that or the first map that we're going to be seeing, and it's going to be really, really exciting to do so. Now, I am going to have to actually quickly scroll through the Liquipedia to see exactly if either of these two squads have indeed visited this map, so we can actually just pull the records quickly and do a little bit of discussion. But for the time being, I'm going to go ahead and go on a limb and say that this is relatively uncharted territory for these two squads, but I'm going to have to double check that in a hot second.
So I'm trying to beat you to it, pulling this up. But again, let's just kind of go off basic stats. This is one of the most common played map in the entirety of Rainbow Six Siege, especially in the European scene. It's a core map, and one of those you're going to have a lot of experience with inside of scrims or other competitions. It's an interesting one because it's kind of a blend between the linearity you see on maps like Oregon and that odd kind of dynamic of window repels and that external factor from the skylights that you would witness on certain places like Consulate. Yeah. It's a very unusual but a very well blended dynamic, and it's always changing, always adapting, and always showing itself in a new light, whether it's from teams playing with increased angles inside of piano and holding down cigar shop with a higher level of aggression, or teams not relying on bunkering up or an onion peel defense and just playing aggressively, whether it's C4s up the main hatch or trying to fight them on that initial entry. There's lots of options for both the attacking and defensive sides. And again, because of its age, because while yes, we had the rework, I believe 2 years ago, it's still something that there's a lot of history, a lot of positions that are from that. So it is something that everyone should have a good experience with, and that's going to lead to, I think, a very tight competition between these two teams.
Yeah, definitely so. So I can confirm that I think it was actually, was Chimp Hunters that have played Cafe Dostoevsky at least once, and I can only see one record of them actually playing on Cafe, and that was against the Minutemen in Playday number 2, to which they were able to secure themselves a dub 7-1. On the opposite side of the spectrum, Imperium of Mondem. They have yet to visit Cafe, so my hunch was correct. This is technically still uncharted territory for Imperium of Mondem, so obviously they do have a lot to prove, and the fact that they actually did have the last ban and just decided to wipe Villa clean off the board for the time being was a relatively interesting decision, all things considered. I mean, they did also play Villa, if I'm not mistaken, at least once, potentially even twice thus far this entire season, so the fact that they aren't willing to actually revisit Villa and opting to force Chimp Hunters to Cafe is it's really, really intriguing to say the least. I got a tingling sensation that Ioma have got something. Well, they've got something prepared for tonight. Otherwise, there wouldn't necessarily be all too much sense as to why exactly they would want to push out Cafe.
Well, I think when you see a team that hasn't necessarily played a map like Cafe, for example, because as I was mentioning, it is such a common thing, I think everyone should be reasonably comfortable on it, leaving it in a map pool. You see, that's always kind of how I feel. You'll see Cafe, Club, and Oregon kind of remain in, unless a team really sees something that they directly don't want to deal with, or it's their opposition's crutch. They'll just leave that in the pool because they're comfortable with it. They know what it comes down to, and if that's going to be the final 3 maps standing, well, you have a strong showing nonetheless. So it makes sense that they were banning out less common maps like Villa, the Chalet, because again, Chalet, it's going to be rare to see. It's going to be that very unrefined gem in competitive play, but it makes a lot of sense. We're in the business end. Teams don't want to take any gambles and risks, and because it might not be something people are scrimming a lot of or developing too far, there's very limited VODs across every region. They're not going to have great development on that, so they're just going to keep that a little bit kind of perhaps on the back shelf for now. But you never know. It's got played quite a bit in NA recently, so some people might have got some chances to develop it further on. We could see it even later on today. That would be an exciting one. That would be a birthday gift worth writing home about. A match on Chalet.
All of you guys in Twitch chat, if you guys are, if the rest of the participating teams later this evening are indeed watching and in Twitch chat, give a Chalet. Give this man the birthday gift that he does actually deserve. We all want to see it. Put on a show for us. And I'm looking specifically over towards you guys, Randy Ravens, going up against the Minutemen. Do it, just for us. Por favor.
Oh, I would love for that. We can't market manipulate too much. You know,
we can at least try. I mean, they can't hold that against us for, you know, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Pull out some Chalet. Why not? Oh, I just whacked my microphone arm. Very nice.
Good. We actually, a nice little kind of tidbit of information is that our wonderful producer Noah is just giving us kind of something that Latam have kind of grown to like Chalet. It's pretty popular over in that region, so if you want to get some of that action, perhaps go over and watch some of those VODs. And I believe Copa BR6 was over the weekend.
Yeah, Copa Elite 6 did indeed take place over the weekend. I did tune in myself as well, and for those of you guys who don't know, Noah was working some of the replays at the time, so absolutely massive props and a congratulations to our lovely producer Noah for being able to actually work a T1 competition like that as well. And also, my condolences, because that was an 11-hour broadcast that they had to pull out last night. Absolutely ridiculous. I can't even remember the last time that I had to work that much. It's been quite. Whew. I think some of the longest broadcasts that I actually ever worked back in the day were with ESA, that were upwards of 7 hours, because they were two best of threes back to back.
Oh, I can't even imagine, man. My voice can barely make it through like 3 best of ones without any damage to it, so I can't even imagine going that long. I mean, that's what we're here for. We're the filthy on-screen talent, you know. I'm being nice. We can't offend our producer for this one. He has all the power. Noah has all the power over us. Hence does. Even the hat.
A single click of a button, and then we will just be thrown out of the VMix cult, where God knows what will happen. He might replace your hat with something absolutely horrendous, potentially a sombrero. Who knows?
No. Oh no, not the sombrero, not the Benelux sombrero. We can't take that out today. It's reserved for my wonderful cardboard cow, Milosh.
I know it is, and actually that was one thing that I did want to bring up. The fact that you are wearing a hat and not Milosh instead has really caught me off guard. It makes it so awkward to look at you right here. The fact that Milosh isn't wearing anything, it's just...
He's just got that natural drip. I need the hat to make up for it. Otherwise, I'm getting completely outshone by a cardboard cow in the background.
You know, that's true. The one thing that I actually do feel is missing from that hat, I'm pretty sure that people may have seen this way back when they were attending elementary school as well, and you did walk around with those kind of like plushy birthday hats as well. The really, really cool ones, they've got like actual birthday candles coming out the top. Not ones you can actually light on fire. They're just cloth birthday candles, but usually the top of the actual top hat is just like riddled with them, and it makes it look so much more spicy. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that production can get on that momentarily, so Whippet is actually wearing a proper birthday hat when you next see us during match number 2. But we are just about to actually hop straight into the action. Just a couple of seconds as we are waiting for the last little bit of confirmations, the last couple of R's to cascade in through Allshad, and then we can hop directly into Cafe Dostoevsky.
And here we are, able to jump straight into the cafes. I believe you punched your mic one final time on the way.
I did not. Surprisingly, I did not.
I'm that's kind of sus. No, thank you for the birthday wishes inside of all chat. But we jump in to our band faces here on Cafe. So, looking at how this is going to work, thank you again. I'm being caught off guard by all of this ones. The fact is that there's one Whippy in all of that. In this...
Now everybody's gonna start. Everybody's just gonna start tossing Whippy around, but I wonder how many of them actually know about the Whippy Drippy. Probably not too many of them.
I really hope that a lot of people that know about that keep it down low, and you just mention it on a broadcast, dude. Why don't you you're leaking some prestigious clubs out here.
Okay, fine. Distraction. Happy birthday, it is your birthday day. We know you're 1 year older, and now we're here to say, when you blow your candles, we hope your wish comes true. So happy birthday from B-Whale to you. Hey,
listen, what more can I ask for than an exciting matchup? And well, the bands have been rolling in through our extended waffle period. Is Thatcher, Maverick, Valkyrie, and now our 4th and final one. Who won't make the cut? I normally ask for a drum roll, but knowing how horrific it sounds when we smash our desks, I'll not put your ears through that torture. As here we go, 4th and final band going to be That Malusi. No Banshees, the shriek in your ears only may when play-by-plays begin to pop off, as that's going to be our band phase. Imperial Band, them starting off with the defensive side. Historically, this map's been weighted towards that siding, so will they be able to take an advantage of that, find an early advantage, or will Chimp Hunters show exactly how good they are, bring the pace, bring the momentum early, and be able to get these rounds on the board on the attacking side?
It's gonna be It's going to be really, really interesting to see exactly how this particular matchup is going to progress. Obviously, on the side of the defense, they do have technically a couple more tools at their disposal than one would usually think. I mean, obviously, the loss of a Malusi, it doesn't necessarily affect the overall defensive holds all too much because there are natural substitutes that you can bring out. And the one thing that I do actually want to, well, mention for the time being is that Mira is playable. Excuse me, both anchors in the form of Maestro as well as Echo are left on the playing field as well. As we just saw, Scipio has decided to actually drop the Pulse in lieu of that Maestro this time around. So Evil Eyes, they're going to be able to, provide IOM quite a lot of plentiful intel, all things considered, and then also deny the plan should the execution actually be fruitful on the side of the Chimp Hunters. But we'll be starting off things on the top floor. We've got Rose bringing out the Rooney this time. Once again, I do always love seeing an Rooney, especially just, you know, the fact that you can place those Surya gates almost anywhere you want. Really, the only thing that limits you is your imagination, but they can have a drastic influence as to how exactly your hold does play out. So hopefully, they have thought the Surya Gate positions through and through for the starting defense, but we'll only have to wait and see. Sea Hunter starting off on the attack. Well, it's going to be interesting to see exactly which points they're going to opt to actually focus on to get this execution in motion.
The big thing that's going to be ringing in my head is the decision to bring the book. Right now, all I'm thinking of, that's going to be an entryway in towards pillars, getting control of reading, and using those skeleton keys to chew open the floor. But Caster Curse, as always, is we're going to be seeing that rappel up the western side of the building, the pilgrimage to the roof of Cafe to get these hatches open and to start off this push. But they have a great deal of utility with that skeleton key to be able to displace that Maestro of Scipio all the way down in Cocktail. And that could be a great avenue to get that initial entryway because it doesn't look like much pressure, if any, is actually being dedicated down below. So the entryway from mining, the entirety of the first and second floor, well, that's essentially free right now for Chimp Hunters. If they can spot that out and pounce on that early, they could get a massive amount of real estate for essentially no effort at all.
Yeah, definitely so. And you've got 3 soft breachers on the side of Chimp Hunters. You've got, well, Zofia and Ash as well as a Buck, as you said, on the side of Angelo, Mo, as well as Sandanos, respectively, and they can cause so much chaos from down below. Not necessarily just destroying the floor, but essentially creating kill boxes for themselves and forcing the defense or the defenders of IOM into very uncomfortable and rather exposed positions, all things considered. But we're going to be starting things off by getting red wall open as soon as humanly possible. There's nobody there on the side of IOM to directly contest it any longer. I believe there is still one player inside of Pixel as well as one person down below who Sandanos is actually now just caught out. Can't spot the angle for the time being though, but I believe that was Angelix down below who has already been down from the new hatch. Scipio is trying to provide cover and he finds one onto Angelo. That does buy Angelix a bit of time, but he's basically as good as dead, sadly enough.
Rose swings, I guess that P10 Roni to sing its song. That's going to be Atlantic in the grave early. We've got a minute left in this round. And again, we've not seen that push from vertically. He's coming downstairs and reading. It's going to be a very direct push to the western side of the building. Everyone's queuing up by Cigar, trying to get themselves lined up. Some yellow pings there, a little bit of added information. They spot the player, and Sandaros in a very tricky spot. Now, this fight through this doorway is very confined. Super claustrophobic and not many positions to work with. So, as you funnel in towards this direction, you are going to be under a massive amount of pressure. Rose gets aggressive and finds it down on the bullet as Mo looks perhaps to retaliate, but the Surya Gate's just going to completely block him off. He has to force commit utility to be able to push that, and that's just going to give information. The Noob's going to be able to get one. That's Mo who falls. Your Ash is off the board. 4 versus 2. 20 seconds left on the clock, and as you mentioned, the Surya Gates, a massive tool, a massive deterrent. This is going to choke out the last survivor of this Sandaros, forced to take HP or sacrifice a drone, and with only 9 seconds left to go, a swing by Rose collects that kill and gets to confirm on the down bullet. That's going to be Imperial Van them. A very strong and commanding start here on their first defensive round.
Definitely so. I really got a feel for Sandanos right over there. It's a bit unfortunate that Ubisoft hasn't actually designed the trampoline so you can basically just toss it out like a frisbee, because that would have helped them out in getting rid of those Surya Gates, but sadly that's not exactly how the trampoline works. You can only actually deploy it, and well, just like that, Sea Hunters, well, the Chimp Hunters, I feel as if they got caught relatively off guard. Don't get me wrong, their actual entry, picking out Angelix down below over by the Christmas tree, that went as well as it actually could have gone. They had to jump on him, and unfortunately enough, they couldn't necessarily actually, well, follow through on that particular entry. I feel as if time management was a there was definitely a lot left to be desired on the side of their actual on their time management in general, and I'm mainly saying that because of the fact that we didn't see that entry onto Angelix come out until there were roughly 1 minute 20 seconds left, and then they actually had gotten that piano wall open when there were roughly 90 seconds left on the floor on the clock as well. So all things considered on the side of Chimp Hunters, time management was a bit of an issue, but it wasn't necessarily their main downfall, I should say. Things, they seemed relatively disconnected. Not everything on the side of the Chimp Hunters was relatively in sync, and IOM, they basically just punched them for that, I feel.
The big thing that I kind of felt from that round is that Imperium of Mandem set everything up to defend that piano cigar area. Everything they had was a position to hold it, or information to gather. Saria Gates were very well positioned to stop that exact push. And as I mentioned at the very start of the round, they had the flexibility in operator lineup to try something different. You could have displaced the people away from that cocktail area, had someone on that white window to catch any potential rotates away, and play with collapses such as that. They had chances, or they had the resources to do it, but didn't make the decision to go away and from it. And they went for a very rigid structure when they had the option for flexibility. And again, in the moment, in the heat of it, when you're getting guns bearing down on your position, it can be tricky to make that call from whoever's IGLing. So I can't really blame them for that. And it's still the opening round. It's in that process, they've got to feel out their competition and know exactly what's going on. So while you can go a great success from the Imperium of Mandem, a fantastic hold upstairs, a great use of all of their equipment, very first round isn't going to be the most telling to how the other remaining rounds can play out.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. Obviously, still early days. We've only seen a single round of play, and maybe Chimp Hunters, they just need to get themselves warmed up, and they could potentially just have had a really, really horrendous wake up and a start to the actual matchup, all things considered. Potentially was simply the fact that IOM had caught them off guard with the actual strategies that they were employing. Obviously, this particular hold is not necessarily something that I had seen over by Piano, and the fact that they actually decided to just completely leave Pixel without actually having anybody play over by Pixel. You are then kind of caught off guard, because as the attackers, you usually expect that you have something to deal with over by Pixel instead, but we actually had Rose playing inside a bathroom behind a Surya gate, and when you're playing in that position, even if your Surya gate does go down, you just have to wait until it gets off of his cooldown. You can shoot that little thingamajig at the top, and then boom, the attackers are back at square one, unless they can actually capitalize on the player inside a bathroom with the small window they actually do have at their disposal. So I personally think it was just Chimp Hunters getting caught off on the wrong foot, not necessarily knowing exactly what to expect, since Lavruni is a very, very versatile operator and can be used in many, many different ways, and I personally really, really did love this particular hold that we did see. But once again, first round, IOM got off to a great start. Now it's going to be down to Chimp Hunters to see if they can actually bag themselves 2 rounds on the attack, at the bare minimum. That's what they want to achieve.
Oh, I certainly bare minimum to be able to get that. And I think they have that potential. So very first sight getting played out was upstairs, of course, leaving the choices of going to reading or kitchen next up. I have a feeling default rotation is going to be in store.
Probably.
You can place, I have a feeling we're going to go to kitchen next. If they continue to bring the Aruni in and play with those 3 gates in the positions, or very type of positions that we saw in the opening round, it could be a massive problem, and that might force some extra utility being brought out. Perhaps they might sacrifice the hard breach utility or the trampoline on the buck to bring those flashbangs to have that extra opening or extra opportunity to open up those gates, because it felt like, at least from what that opening round showed, is that those gates presented one of the hardest challenges for that team to break down. They didn't have anything that was clear to break away that utility, and they seemed hesitant to use something like the Ashes breaching charges or anything else of that type, Selma charges alike, to break through it, because, well, those are massive important bits of utility, and if you use one to a Saria gate, because it's such an influential bit of gear, you want to have, you don't know if you're going to need that later on the round, or how beneficial it could have been if you get to that post-plant situation. So I think bringing some extra secondary throwables would be a massive benefit. Even bringing Sophia along for the extra, concussions with the lifelines could be an opportunity for them to have that extra thing. And still, we can theory craft and talk about what we've seen so much already.
Yeah.
But round 1 isn't much to base on. It's still a bit of a warm up, and well, I got the wonderful whisper in my ear from our fantastic producer. We are ready to hop back into the game, so no more waffle, no more theory crafting, as here we are. We got one thing right in our prediction phase, at least. We're going to see kitchen and service getting brought out.
Interestingly enough, IOM have actually decided to drop the Aruni this time around, but at the very least, they do still have the pepperoni on Rose this time around. Mozzie, as opposed to Aruni, actually does have that 1.5x scope, which makes taking long range engagements that much more favorable. And given how tiny the actual dot is, it's much smaller than the actual red dot you see on the holographic sight, means that you can effectively click heads that much better. And that's exactly what we want to see Rose do. In the first round, they were able to pick up 3 kills, which is absolutely massive. And I can only assume, and I can only expect that that number is going to grow exponentially as the matchup actually progresses. But once again, swapping over to Chimp Hunters, they're doing things a tad bit differently. As if I'm not mistaken, Jackal is actually making his debut as Atlantic has decided to bring him out. That was missing in that previous round that we just witnessed, but obviously the question remains, how exactly is Jackal going to contribute to the large, or to the actual grand scheme of things in this particular round?
The biggest justification I can see for Atlantic's choice of operator right now is to go up to that skylight, throw on the goggles, and get kind of an eagle-eye view of the entire, or a hefty chunk of the upstairs area. That's a massive hotspot, a massive level of foot traffic up there, and if that Inox spots out some feet, they know, okay, we've got a roam clear in our hands and can set you up and add that extra bit of information. Similar to how you would see teams play on, well, the now long-forgotten bank when it was in a competitive pool. Go up to the skylight, throw on your Jackal Inox, and now, you know, and a little bit of a perhaps miscommunication, a misplay there. The Goyo Volcana's shield has been popped inside of Ramsey, and well, that's a bit of utility gone already. So without Chimp Hunters knowing, may have achieved at least half of a mark on the checklist.
Yeah, I think that's a safe way to put it. Unfortunately, they won't have that Vulcan shield to actually cower behind, but thus far, well, Chimp Hunters, they've actually been able to spot out Roses, I believe. That was not a drone, that was actually mind-controlled by one of the passes, but look at this. Rose is actually on the move, surprisingly enough. Spots out the head, and just like that, pop goes the Weasel, and pop goes Atlantic as well. Nice little entry on the side of IOM is going to bag Rose their 4th kill. And that means that Chimp Hunters are starting to run low on time, but they're going to have to work twice as hard to actually stand a chance at winning this round, which isn't necessarily the prime position you want to find yourself in.
A very good kill there, though, and the reason Rose was able to get that kill reasonably uncontested was for one simple reason. The drone that spotted that Moz had no one acting on that information live, and that left the relocation very available. Angelo, working with what they've got, the verticality from the breaching round is brought out from Sophia, able to clear away that bandit wire, and we hear the Skeleton Key doing some work off inside of Dining as well. Player getting spotted out there, but that's CH a little bit unwieldy, so firing through a very narrow angle in those bars might not be that ideal. 55 seconds remain as C4 got primed and ready. Will it be able to find its mark? It's pre-placed, so DJ is going to be just waiting for an opportune moment to strike. We'll be able to capitalize upon that, though, as every bit of this flooring or this roof above the defenders in kitchen will be torn away bit by bit, systematically removing cover, making every key position that little bit less viable. A nasty fight indeed, and Mo gonna come out worse for wear. As just Fetch player, you've got to win that. Nope's only gonna get one, but a fantastic shot there in the book to C8 sings, and Angelix falls. Angelo holding tight in narrow position as Rose going to be battling away inside of reception as well, finding a great deal of damage with that Roni. Make that a kill, 2 in the round now. It's a 4 versus 2 and 15 seconds remain. Bullet's going to be able to get one of Rose, but Angelo's going to get traded off and left in Divino. Can't withstand that one as the Evil Eye zaps away. Bullet with an AK-12 in hand, but no HP on the bar as Dope shuts him down with a headshot from the carbine. And Imperial Man then find their 2nd round in a row. They're picking up some steam here, and oh, you didn't have to do him that dirty. First shot he sent from the barrel as he drops prone, connects with the dome of Ace, and gets that victory from IOM.
That always catches me off guard, especially when it happens to me in game, but when I'm watching it and you just immediately hold down control on your keyboard while you're firing mouse 1, and then bada bing bada boom, you randomly get a headshot like that. You'll love to see it, but if you're on the receiving end, not so much. Now, there is one thing that we have got to discuss, and obviously that was the miscommunication that actually took place on the side of the Chimp Hunters. There was a drone that had initially spot out Rose next to the engine room itself, and as you stated, there was nobody within close proximity to actually act upon this information. Rose finds the opening frag onto Atlantic. Given that it's not the most major loss on the side of Chimp Hunters, Jackal doesn't necessarily bring a whole lot to the table, didn't even actually have any smokes to work with, but the main thing that I'm getting at is that that particular entry, it had a massive ripple effect throughout the entire remainder of that round, to the point the Chimp Hunters were always fighting from being on the back foot, essentially. They were always going to be a man down in each and every single engagement that they did opt to take, and there was effectively nothing that they could have done. It was always going to be an uphill battle the moment that Atlantic was the first to be felled. And that was really, really unfortunate to see, that Chimp Hunters weren't able to actually properly punish Rose for just existing in a place that they clearly shouldn't be. Somewhere that's super duper exposed. Right next to Engine is, you're basically shooting at a clay pigeon at that certain point. So the fact that Chimp Hunters were unable to secure that entry in their favor is really, really worrisome. But hopefully they've woken up after these last 2 rounds and they know what needs to be done, and that they can't necessarily make any mistakes when it comes to the roam clear any longer.
I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. They need to be able to clear away the map more efficiently, be more direct upon that, and acting on information live could be a great way to do it. In this example, why not have your entry following those drones? You may have been able to find the opening kill on the alibi. They perhaps need to find a way to increase the pace, be able to find some extra momentum. And well, speaking of increasing the pace, Sandanos finds the opening kill on the aforementioned alibi, and well, a clean shot. The C8 finds its first victim of this round, or any more to be able to line up for the Canadian operator. As Scipio is trying to battle away, sending some shots down range onto that live marker, that 2 yellow ping, being relayed some extra information, verbal callouts I'd imagine as well, and a tricky fight indeed as Jaeger going to get a lot of damage and tries to hit that fadeaway, covering off that retreat, dropping down the hatch in the laundry, and now, well, very, very quickly, the top floor has been taken and gathered by the offense, and Atlantic is just going to increase the deficit, make that 2-kill advantage for the Chimp Hunters, sitting pretty at 5 versus 3, but can they now capitalize on the verticality control? Can they make the angles, push players away, and pounce on their opportunities?
75 seconds left to go, and they firmly hold on to that top 4, making their lives that much easier. Scipio is the next to fall once again at the hands of Atlantic, securing a double in this here round. Unfortunately enough for IOM, the tertiary bomb site, it's not working out as they had initially anticipated, and now they're left in a 2v5 scenario. It's going to be down to the Dob and DJ to go absolutely ham if they want to secure that successful site rotation, but holding on for dear life for the next 45 seconds, it's a really, really tricky task to accomplish, as Bullet has already worked his way into the bomb site, is trying to get that diffuser down as soon as possible, but his cover, Angelo, has actually fallen. Now he actually secures the plant as well, and he's able to secure a kill for his trouble. Saudanos will be credited with the final kill onto the Dob as well, who unfortunately enough can't get any more than 4 kills throughout the course of these last 3 rounds, but that is Chimp Hunters finally getting themselves on the scoreboard, and it was about damn time as well.
A very, very good clear from them as well. We were mentioning up until that opening kill occurred that they needed to find a quicker avenue in, get in that overtaking lane, dump the engine in the rich mix, and find some opportunity to get that opening. And they done so. And from that early kill, it just cascaded and cascaded and cascaded. They found momentum, they found opportunity after opportunity, and they just pounced. Very well done from them, but can they build upon that on the next site? Because reading and dining, it's a very strong site to set up well, but at the end of the day, it is still a tertiary site, so it's not going to be one of the strongest two on the map. So can they now go to what for many teams is the main and primary site of Upstairs and Bar Cocktail, and use what lessons they learned from the very opening round, because the lineup is the exact same. We see Rose back on that Aruni. So, will they have learnt the lessons? Second time of trying of this site, can they break them down? Perhaps pushing underneath, clearing those vertical sections. We see there's perhaps an angle open up by Angelix there to give an opportunity to fight down inside a pillar as well. But if Chimp Hunters can adapt and learn and be flexible in their strategy, this can present lots of problems from Pyramid Mandem, who I imagine are thinking of this going to be a full frontal push from Piano and Cigar.
This might be purely coincidental, but if I'm in the shoes of Chimp Hunters, if I'm in the team speak along with them, if I were their coach, I would have probably realized relatively early on that the one player on the side of IOM who has got a massive bullseye on their back is currently Rose. Up until right now, they, alongside the Dob, have 5 kills to their name. And the fact of the matter is that in that previous round, Chimp Hunters were able to wipe Rose clean off the face of the earth as the initial entry, which then cascaded into a round win for them. And obviously, well, that does speak volumes. If you're able to get rid of the defense's top fragger, then that makes your life so much easier. So now Chimp Hunters, now that they have realized exactly how influential players such as Rose and the Daub can be, the sooner they are, well, able to get rid of them, the better things start to look. But once again, we're going to have to turn attention to this particular setup over here. They have made some adjustments, specifically Atlantic, once again bringing out the Nomad, who has in total 6 throwables, meaning that those Surya gates can effectively stay shut for as long as humanly possible. But once again, Chimp Hunters, they also need to work a little bit of initiative into the mix if they do want to be successful.
They're kind of starting to drop these hatches and take this real estate, but can they capitalize on opportunities and win these opening engagements? It's going to be super critical that they can find some. Looks like Angelo is burning away that utility, burning away those pancakes, but is going to get caught napping there as Rose swings aggressively, and yet another victim to a Rooney playing Pixel. That's 3 people across the entirety of this matchup so far who have been slain to this position. Can they be able to stop the bleeds, throw on that tourniquet, and manage this position? Because that's Surya Gate. Yes, it telegraphs the movement, but it only gives you a fraction of a second to root into that swing. That's a very tricky task indeed. DJ sending lead down range as well, making it awkward for anyone deep in Cigar, as Trash and Trolley is going to be opened up by Sandanos, using that skeleton key. It rains off in the distance, but without control of Freezer, without control of this bathroom area that's held by a Rooney, pushing for that plant and that execution is almost going to be impossible, as well as DJ lurking deep inside of Freezer himself has C4s to work with as Mo tries to get some ground. His dude's going to find himself getting lit up there, reduced to low HP. Angelic's going to find him in the early grey. 4 versus 4 to ensue, and it looks like a bit of a traffic jam as Rose swings. The air jab pushes them deeper into Pixel. They stay alive, and a flurry of kills. Rose gets one, Scipio another. The plant goes down, but all a little bit too late. The collapse occurs. It's a post-plant situation in a 3 versus 1 Atlantic. What work can they do? They need to be able to find every kill and be systematic in their method. It finds 2! It's now 1 versus 1. Scipio, the Alda. What work can I do? Dumps the round, but no! Both of them with the air jab! What?
I am left utterly speechless. Thank you for that, Science. Thank you for wobbling around. I'm now sick to my stomach. What on earth just happened? That was arguably the messiest round we have seen thus far. And not to discredit IOM, but they were able to, well, quite literally thrive in the chaos. This is, I'm trying to piece together exactly what happened in that particular round because it was so absolutely ridiculous. Let's, for a second, try to break down exactly what had happened, right? And before we even actually start breaking down exactly what happened, the one thing that I actually do want to point out is Chimp Hunters. If you guys are going to be going for a plant over by Trash Wall, you better get Freezer open as well, because the player that is sat inside of Freezer can wide swing onto the planter that is inside over by Trash Wall. That was Scipio, but this right here, nobody capitalized on the fact that one of the players, specifically Rose, actually triggered an air jab, and I thought to myself, like, you know, fine. Actually, you know what? Not fine. You should actually have your attention focused towards that air jab the moment that you hear the sound cue. And unfortunately enough for Bullet, he was holding down F. He was holding down the diffuser, trying to stick it as soon as humanly possible, but he couldn't actually turn. And I'm pretty sure, if I did see that correctly, IOM, they actually swung. They actually swung Pixel, triggering the air jab with 2 players. So that the first person that activates it is obviously left stuck in an animation, but the second player that actually does come around is able to capitalize and actually fire some bullets. That was extremely messy. Extremely, just overall a poor execution on the side of Chimp Hunters. And I'm just left absolutely speechless, to be honest.
The biggest thing, I think, the 2 air jabs are an interesting dynamic of that round, but when that plant went down, the Q was brought out, and Prima Man them knew this plant's happening now. This is the execution, and they just collapsed. And I think when Rose went through that Surya gate, got blasted by the air jab, the second player was ready and primed to go for that fight. Fantastic coordination, and just a mind-bending collapse and a series of events that led to that conclusion. Again, the Nomad did get down before that air jab detonated,
Yeah.
which, you know, in the heat of the moment, very hard to see. But Rose popping up again with the Roni. Whether it's Mozzie or a Rooney, give Rose the Roni, because, oh my lord, the work getting done is insane. As Sandanos falls, Jaskellen and Key no longer available. Rose, 8-3, top dog in the server. What a performance so far.
And we're only 4 rounds in as well. They're having a massive field day thus far, but unfortunately on the side of the Chimp Hunters, well, backs against the wall, and they've got to make do. They got to work with what they can actually have right now. And I do believe that, well, the Dob is actually right next door. He's inside a library currently, yet to be droned on out. But unfortunately enough, Rose is actually there to bite the bullet and kiss the dirt as well as a follow-up, since the Dob has actually, well, retreated back down. This does leave us in a 4v4 situation, an even playing field between these two squads, but Chimp Hunters, they can't necessarily cut their losses just yet. This is going to be an uphill battle for them, as they still have quite a couple of hurdles to actually leap over, and they need to start actually getting a lot of work done in record time, because it's starting to run out. Angelix, lovely little shot with the reflex over there. Not exactly sure how he was able to land it, but hey, I'm not going to complain. That is going to set Sandanos in his spot, and Chimp Hunters once again fighting from the back of the field.
This has been a stellar performance. Angelix finds 2 now, battling away instead of reception and coat check. Take your tickets to him, because he's got reservations for all of you, and it's in that 5.56 caliber as Bullet looks to queue up a fight in a tricky position now. It's just, this is such a horrible fight to take. The pre-fire's landing and return trade-off as well, as Angelix just sits calm, patient, ice in the veins, and finds number 3. Will number 4 be on the board, as Bullet now all alone in a 1 versus 4. 15 seconds remain. The round is as good as dead, and I think it's just going to be a hunt down for that quad kill. Will he find it? Yes, he will! Angelix finds all 4 who come towards coat check. A reservation of 5.56 leaves 4 bodies in the ground, and another round in favor of Imperium of Mandem.
It took a couple of rounds for Angelix to finally get going, but now, well, they're certainly firing on all cylinders, and that, what was it, a quadra kill, if I'm not mistaken? Absolutely massive stuff coming out from Angelix. I doubt that they'll be able to outdo themselves, considering last week's performance. 21 kills to their name, but I think they can definitely still have tons of fun right over here. But more importantly, so on the side of Chimp Hunters, things have just seemingly gone from bad to worse. I mean, in that particular round right over there, they were able to surely get rid of the one of the roamers that IOM had employed over by Library, but that's effectively the only thing that they were actually able to accomplish on their checklist. I mean, everything that was taking place in that mid rounds of actually setting themselves up for the execution, well, scratch that, they couldn't actually even set up an execution. Players were being slain out left, right, and center, and the main culprit was, well, Angelix, as you can see right here on screen, and as a result of that, the gap is now 3 rounds between these two squads. Chimp Hunters are not having fun whatsoever. Now, obviously, one would argue that, you know, Cafe, defender-sided map, but honestly, what we're seeing thus far from Chimp Hunters is not necessarily at the standard that you would usually expect. Things, as I said, have been going from bad to worse. It's starting to look relatively sketchy. At least, that's what I've been perceiving thus far.
They have to go into some form of triage mode and figure out what these problems are mid-round, and they're losing people off in the mid phase. That's where they've been suffering. It's where the weakest point right now for Chimp Hunters has been. They get their entries, and they're capable of doing it. They're capable of getting that opening kill and finding themselves in great positions to take map control and cascade from that. But it's that transition phase of now we've got map control to now what do we do with it that I think they're struggling with. And again, they have all the tools available to them. I just don't think that they're putting those tools in the most efficient places to work the best they can. Gritting Dining, our site that's getting brought out now. So we saw that they were able to have a very rapid entry, getting control of Piano very quickly with that opening kill that fell onto the alibi inside of Pixel. We now note the difference, that there's no alibi inside of Pixel and no one's made that initial push in. Some fights occurring as Angelo is going to be reduced to around half HP. That's going to be uncomfortable for the rest of this. Rose sitting on the white stairs in, well, a great position. If anyone funnels in through that door, they're going to be met by the open jaws of the UMP and all support of the two other teammates of Scipio and the Legion. This is such a tricky thing to fight against, and they're letting that time drain away because they haven't made an initial push. Gemini Replicator's going to get the information slaying out, but Scipio is just going to swing with brutal efficiency, finds the opening kill. Your buck falls to an early grave. A great opening, but now the offense get closer and closer. They all try to line up, but no! Angelo is going to get one. Rose trades off that kill instantly, so no harm, no foul. Advantage still sits with the Imperium of Mandem.
That was really, really interesting. I love the fact that IOM actually decided to vacate that top floor hold, essentially giving Chimp Hunters a false sense of security for them to actually ingress in and assume control over that bar and cocktail portion of the map before Rose just came on swinging and found one for their troubles. But this is gonna leave the Chimp Hunters in a relatively dicey position, all things considered, but hopefully they can strive in the chaos that is about to ensue as Atlantic kicks us off, finds the Dob, and that is going to leave us in a 3v3 scenario with Mo, currently sat inside of Laundry, trying to put the G36C to good use, and is good for one kill. Scipio is immediately going to trade things out, so it's a tag team duo squad on the side of Bullet and Mo versus Scipio and DJ in these last 30 seconds.
These are going to be a critical 30 seconds now. An isolated batch of defenders. They can't play directly for the trade game on each other because of this distance being such a factor. But Mo, on a single point of HP, narrowly walks into the jaws, avoids walking into the jaws of that Alda. In a tricky position. The Gemini Replicator sound is sent away, so DJ knows that information's going to be there. But no, it was the real one! A trade-off instantaneous, however, as Bullet's going to get that kill. But with 5 seconds left, a castle barrier wins the round as he's got no time. It's gonna go on the clock as Imperium of Mandem will win out round number 6, 5-1 on their defensive split. Just shows that no matter how good you're playing, how many trades you have, your round can be foiled by a single castle barrier.
That is absolutely heartbreaking, and even if he was able to actually get rid of that castle barricade, he still had a goo mine stuck in his ankle. He is not having a good day whatsoever, meaning that if you hold F, you don't get the diffuser down because of how the prioritization works. You've got to take that needle, that thorn out of your side as soon as possible before you can get that diffuser down. And honestly, I really got a feel for Chimp Hunters in that particular round because obviously, well, that was the closest they had actually come to getting an execution off outside of round number 4. And things were actually starting to look relatively good as soon as Mo was able to pick up that kill right over there. And this also caught me off guard, to be fair. I personally thought that that was a Gemini Replicator as well, but clearly it wasn't. And being left on a single point worth of HP means that any kind of bullet, any kind of caliber is surely going to take you out of commission. But, oh boy. Oh boy, indeed. This is looking pretty bad for Chimp Hunters, and now the Bullet has taken roughly 40 points worth of damage, basically for nothing. Did he self-impact himself?
Yeah, I believe he managed to throw an impact at his feet and leave himself a little bit worse for wear. Yeah, that's not going to be the greatest position to find yourself in. So, one thing I will just want to point out is the very first ADS deployed behind that Goyo shield. That's null and void, because that cannot stop projectiles coming towards that shield. I believe it's too far back. And if that shield detonates, bye-bye ADS. That is, this is a suboptimal use of utility, perhaps. And again, you can place your shield a little bit further away and use the small gap beside it to catch any incoming projectiles. Perhaps they're maybe anticipating a grenade to try and clear that position. And again, they have the Yana, which brings out those grenades. Still, you could have had a perhaps more efficient use of deployment of those ADS as we see this round playing out.
I mean, we did see one of the ADSs actually be placed directly behind the couch. Potentially they could have actually stacked both of them behind the couch as well if they really want to secure that shield, but just move it a couple of inches back. Better safe than sorry, all things considered.
Yeah, it's again an interesting decision. It's again where we're here in our virtual casting booth. We're not in the server playing these rounds and in the comms, so they might have something planned for that. Sandaros is looking to try and take fights, and people are repelling on that ticket window. It's not exactly a favorable position to find yourself in. A tricky fight, anyone in repelling, especially with a pretty high magnification optic. They can just kind of see your head from a distance and pick you off the moment you give them a pixel to shoot at. And as time begins to tick away, perhaps you just want to play more reserved. You know, play closer to the objective. Don't take risks. Don't take gambles. You're not betting going all in a Mirage for NAL. So you just sit back, relax, and just waste time. As the Vault comes in, that's a Gemini replicator, so they still know Atlantic's here, and they're doing a great job of taking fights, but no! The Dob, a wonderfully placed pre-fire, gets the opening kill, and, well, that Goyo could have wasted so much time by existing. Impact, or I should say, breaching charges lobbed on in, and that shield is going to be vulnerable now as Rose reduced to 1 HP, a tricky encounter. I wonder, will this Nomad back off as we only have 55 seconds left in this round?
Even if somebody is actually to take up the reins over by Rose, it would still be a really, really tricky engagement to actually contest, but now that they have been able to actually dislodge Sondanos from Pixel, IOM's lives have been made just a tad bit easier. Note the fact that Angelix is also down below, still has a couple of explosives to work with, meaning that they can potentially, well, dislodge some of the players or at least cause some chaos from down below. As I do believe there is currently one player still sat inside of the bathroom, as we have DJ now being left in the DVNO state, practically in no man's land, as there are 15 seconds left to play with. It's go time for IOM, and here comes Angelix swinging, is able to shut down Sundanos, but can't capitalize onto Mo, unfortunately enough. Bullet is going to put that Alda to good use. Wide swings directly into Cocktail, but the plant is going down behind the bomb chassis as well. Narrowly shut down by Angelo. He will be shut down himself, and just like that, we're left in a 2v1 situation as the Dob claims their second in the round right over here, leaving Bullet all on his lonesome with the Alda in hand. Has 2 players to find, one of them left on decently low HP, means that this is certainly winnable, all things considered, but time continues to drain, and when you're a chunky boy, you have got to be running at the speed of Mach 5 if you really want to make this happen. He spots out one player directly underneath New Hatch, but when you've got a second player to deal with above over by the skylight and with only 7 seconds left to play with, this is unfortunately all but lost on the side of Chimp Hunters. IOM, they're the first to hit 6 rounds, a single 1 round after this, and they'll be able to secure their spot at the top of the leaderboard.
This has been a fantastic demonstration of how to play Cafe on both sides so far. Yes, we've only seen 1 round, or 1 attacking round from Imperium of Mandem, but they were very, I would say, calm and collected, even when there was lots of pressure mounting. There was flurries of kills occurring. It felt like as that bomb was going down, or the fuse was being planted, I should say, it was very hectic, very chaotic, and they reveled in that. They were able to stay calm and play positions. They understood exactly what to do, how to do it, and that post plant they set up with a player up on Skylight, the other below New Hatch, well, for a Maestro, as you said, a chunky boy, that's not going to be the easiest fight to take when you've when you only have 45 seconds to work with. It was almost a foregone conclusion that Alda wouldn't have got a chance to win out that round. As now, as you mentioned, Imperium of Mandem first hit 6 on the scoreboard, meaning they now find themselves sitting pretty on match point.
And keep in mind, if IOM walk away with 3 points right over here, which is starting to look extremely likely, they will overtake the Princesses, who is currently on pole with 12 points to their name, meaning that they will, at least temporarily, have their spot in the top 4 secured, meaning that Chimp Hunters may simply be out of contention. Not exactly sure what Bullet was doing over there. Potentially, he's just pulling our legs. I'm absolutely baffled by what has been going on.
So, I did look away just to kind of double check our standings, how much this will be a leapfrog. Was this a Goyo shield placed perhaps to try and make a rotation or an impact size hole? Because the Goyo shield, for anyone who doesn't know, you can place it by a wall. If you pop it, it makes equivalent damage to what an impact grenade would do. So if you're in desperate need of a rotate on Oregon, which has happened to my well, I don't even want to call it a stack, but my group of people I unfortunately play this game with, often happens way too much.
I mean, if you really, really want to make rotates or just clear out the entire bar, bring in Oryx. I mean, you can As far as I can remember, well, I don't even know if you exactly take any damage from just, Rima dashing into the actual bar itself. Okay, for a second I thought the dog was on the bomb site, and I was starting to get a little bit nervous, but that is simply just a Gemini replicator, folks. Don't worry.
I mean, I can imagine the player inside of bathroom had a little bit of a scare there. You're never 100% sure when you see
Can
on
never
a
be
corner
safe.
corner. It's like, is this the real thing?
Let me shoot.
Know.
I gotta double check. Let me just shoot it. A single tap.
I mean, as we saw on that round of reading and dining, you've got to shoot it because that you can fake out the sound of the Gemini deployment, and you can just swing a corner, and if they hesitate for a single second, you might find yourself in that kill. A minute 40 remains, and the entry's been a little bit tricky so far. They're not opting to do the same thing twice, understanding that variation will be very ideal for them. The Dom's going to take a little bit of damage there, I believe from above, up inside of Cocktail. No, it's Atlantic instead of reading. So now they have a massive puzzle to solve. They need to displace this Goyo and do it reasonably quick because that timer is going to start draining. And, well, the Peruvian operator's got that C4 in his back pocket. If he can stay alive and just persist, that information's there. But the Noob isn't going to let him persist. Let that C4 be an active threat for much longer as he swings. The G36C finds its first victim in this round.
Definitely so, and even if the Dob wasn't able to secure that frag, Angelix would have been right behind to support. Sandano's currently battling away. Between himself and Rose is able to take and chip away quite a bit at Rose's HP, but not enough to put them 6 feet under, unfortunately enough. Currently, well, a Gemini replicator is going to spot out Mo at the top of construction for the time being, and he is soon to follow himself as Angelix is able to shut down Sandanos, leaves IOM now in a 5v2 scenario. Well, that certainly caught Angelo off guard, and Mo didn't even know what hit him, unfortunately enough. Once again, Bullet is left in a clutch or kiss scenario. His position now very much known as he is being harassed and bullied from all directions and angles known to man. He is still drunk as Angelix has got him in his sights, and just like that, well, Scipio cleans him up, and unfortunately enough, well, it's all smooches for Bullet. Can't put the ult to good use, so unfortunately enough, that one phrase that we know and love will have to stay in retirement. But more importantly so, that is IOM cleaning things up, 7-1 on Cafe, gaining 3 points, and they have currently, well, inherited that #1 spot at the top of the standings.
That was a fantastic performance from them. Remember, they are still the very first match of this entire Playday, so there are lots of changes that could happen. But right now, in Premium Mandem, if I look at my thing, they have leapfrogged from 5th to 1st in one result. As just you can indicate from that is how close these standings are. That you could, even if Team Triton, if let's say the result was Team Triton won that, they would still have claimed 1st place. That is how tight this is. Because a single victory, a single lack, or if let's say Princesses don't get points this Playday, that's going to leave them in probably even outside, could leave them outside of the top 4. These standings are insane, and that's just makes every match worth so much. And what we've just witnessed was, I think, a supreme display of how Cafe should be played on both attacking and defensive sides. Imperial Mandem is showing exactly what they're made of and how much of a threat they hold for everyone in this season.
Yeah, and one more thing that I actually do have to touch on, as we stated before we actually jumped into the matchup, this effectively was IOM's decision to visit Cafe because they had the choice of, well, either leaving us with Villa or Cafe, and they decided to actually ban out Villa as the last ban. And as we stated at the very, very start of the matchup, this was technically uncharted territory for Imperium of Mandem. They have not once this season actually played Cafe. And Chimp Hunters, they did play Minutemen, not the most competitive team within the league, but they had quite a bit of experience on Cafe, all things considered. So you would think to yourself the Chimp Hunters would have technically been the much more favored side moving into this best of 1 series, but we were just so clearly proven wrong. IOM, there's no kidding with them. There's no jokes whatsoever. They're here to get the job done. And immediately, right out of the gates, the gloves were already off. It was a bare-knuckled brawl, and it actually, well, it concluded before it even had a chance to commence on the side of Chimp Hunters. It was...
I think perhaps calling it a bare-knuckle brawl may not be the most accurate description.
Yeah, sure.
If you were watching the UFC Saturday, Usman versus Jorge Masvidal. That clean, crisp right hand that sent the Street Jesus to the Shadow Realm. I think that might be a better description of what we just saw. It was clean
Sure,
and
one punch
efficient.
knockout. Yeah.
Exactly. It was a clean and efficient, breaking apart of chimp hunters. And again, chimp hunters have been putting on fantastic results. They've been getting better and better and gaining momentum.
Yeah.
If that doesn't speak to the quality of Imperium of Mandem, or perhaps how strong they are on this map in particular, I don't know what else does.
Neither do I, but regardless, that is going to conclude things for our opening matchup right here. It was a bit of an upset on the side of Chimp Hunters, but once again, we do have to give a round of applause towards Imperium of Mandem. Just once again, showing us, giving us a clear example as to why they are a force to be reckoned with and why they do deserve to be that number one spot, number one seed currently within BUAL Season 2. But for the time being, we are going to quickly throw to a bit of a short break, and we will be back with our second matchup, which is going to be, not Randy Ravens versus the Minutemen. That is going to be taking place at the end of tonight. We've got Sniper Monkeys going up against the Froggers very, very soon. So make sure to go ahead and grab yourself a snack, a beverage, if you will, and we'll see you back here very, very shortly.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to this Playday here at Badass University All-Stars. It has been a fantastic one so far, but we still have 2 more games for you. It's going to be the same duo on commentary, as always, myself, Whippet, and joining me, once again, the wonderful, the one, the only, joining me in a Hawaiian shirt as well. A very impromptu decision, and it's going to be Two Doors.
Tommy Bahamas, by the way, if you guys are actually on the market for a couple of Hawaiian t-shirts, definitely get some. They're absolutely massive. But currently, our next matchup of the evening is going to be Froggers going up against Sniper Monkeys. Now, as things currently stand, and let's go ahead and once again glance over the standings once again so we can actually paint a bit of a narrative, paint a bit of a picture as to how these two teams actually do stand and what their overall shots are at making the finals. For the time being, well, the Froggers, they are currently sat on 7th position with 6 points to their name. Sniper Monkeys, they are 9th with 3 points to their name, basically just one-upping Minutemen as well. And as things currently stand right now, basically the ball is certainly in the court. It's certainly in the court of the Froggers. If they're able to pick up 3 points here tonight over Sniper Monkeys, then they do actually have a real shot at potentially making the top 4. But if Sniper Monkeys actually deny them that luxury, if this matchup even goes to overtime between these two squads, then I'm pretty sure the Froggers can actually kiss their hopes of going to playoffs goodbye.
Yeah, they're in a very tricky position now, down in 7th place, 6 points to their name, and only a single round positive in that differential. So to get a win here and a full thought win, all 3 points is essentially, it's imperative. They must do that to get themselves in a position where they can fight for that top 4. It's not going to be an easy road for them. It's a long way away as well. Not that long, but it's still a long journey,
It's
lot of
doable.
matches. It's doable. They need to find a way to kind of get more consistency in their performances and find something, find a spark or a change or a map, a set of maps that work better for their style to really be able to bounce back and start putting wins on the board. The other side, though, their opposition for this matchup is going to be Sniper Monkeys, a team that I think has a lot to prove. You know, this is a really, really talented side with great players on it, a massive amount of depth and experience. And so far, they're yet to put significant results on the board. They've got 1 win, 4 losses, and they're negative 13 when it comes down to that round differential as well.
Yeah.
They need to find something. It's been lackluster.
It has been a bit lackluster, and that's not necessarily to say that they're a bad squad per se. It's just that they have had quite the struggle with actually threading the needle more often than not. I mean, if we take a look at some of their past score lines, the past record, all things considered, a lot of their matches have technically been 7-4 losses. They haven't necessarily had a single scoreline which dipped under 3 rounds to their name, which is a bit unfortunate. They are able, yes, to actually go nearly the full distance, nearly all 12 rounds, and potentially even secure overtime for themselves, but it just hasn't necessarily happened. They've got 1 dub to their name, and that's simply as good as it gets. Once again, we've got to reiterate, they are a talented team. They just struggle with a tad bit of stamina, unfortunately enough. But let's go ahead and actually get to know some of the players that are going to be in the arena tonight, as we are going to pull up our rosters momentarily. And I know you're bad with names, but you've got to learn. Whippet, take us through.
Oh, okay, our fingers crossed to try and get it. But Froggers, again, a fantastic team. They've been putting on great results. Need to find that momentum. Reverse Flow, Volcanoid, Yukio, and Murph. Again, lots of talent. There's such a strong roster. They just haven't found that spark, that flair to really be able to launch themselves in towards that upper half. And we got Techie, Quick Jab, Nom the Nom, Sturksy, and the hit on Sniper Monkeys. Again, just reading through that, there's so many names that I imagine everyone in Twitch chat is going to recognize. Of course, you're going to know Sturksy. But again, there's depth all the way through this roster. It's such a strong team. And, you know, kind of to break the unbiased kind of side, it's a team I want to see do well because of the names on this roster, and they haven't performed to the level I personally feel they can.
Yeah, no, I've definitely got to agree with that. Obviously, these individual players that actually do make up Sniper Monkeys, especially if we take a look back at Season 1, they were some of the most talented players that have actually touched Siege within this particular community. I mean, one of the most outstanding plays that I can even remember to this day was actually the Hide on Cafe. The very last player on the Sniper Monkeys roster sheet, picking up a 3 kill, 2 of which were like a simultaneous two birds with one stone C4 kill and then somehow getting a hipfire kill in quick succession with a pepperoni. These players, they are all extremely talented on the side of the Sniper Monkeys, but collectively as a unit there have been a couple of issues. Now we also do have a little bit of an update. It appears as if Max D is actually going to be subbing in for the Sniper Monkeys. At least that's the information that we have at hand right now. Not exactly sure who's not going to make the cut on the side of Sniper Monkeys here tonight, but if Max is going to be subbing in, then Sniper Monkeys, they definitely do actually stand a massive chance at closing out a victory tonight.
Oh, again, Max D, a very potent player. You know, opening game of the season on Chalet broke the kill record, set it at 26 in an absolute stomping performance. Has been a little bit up and down. Consistency hasn't been there, and I think Max Max is trying to work on that, as every player here is doing it. But if he can show up and bring the version of Max that we know can be there, the super aggressive, always hitting shots, if that Max shows up, I feel he could have a massive influence on this match. And again, coming in as that substitute, the best thing you could do is kind of just put him on that aggressive role and be like, all right, Max, you know, you're not going to know our strat book. Yeah, off you go.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. We see a lot of, we do see a couple of players technically actually employ that manner of play as well at the very, very tip top of tier 1 as well, to the point that, you know, once you've got your initial entry done, for example, if that is the role that you're supposed to fulfill, you know, you've gotten the first kill in the bag for your squad. Now you can basically just go ahead, turn on some Monster Cat, and then run free, run in the wilds, be the deer prancing through the fields, if you may, whatever. And if that is the role that Max is technically going to fill here tonight, then, well, we could definitely have a matchup on our hands as well. But we are going to have to await proper confirmation if that is what's to come.
Certainly so. So we're just waiting on getting some players in the lobby, getting some stuff sorted out, but we do have our map video ready. So we in the wonderful production booth, we've got we can always sometimes look ahead, see the map bands before you get to see them. You know, it's one of our little benefits, one of the little joys of this. But for this time, I haven't seen what we're going to, so this is going to be a complete surprise for me. So
neither have I.
Clubhouse and Cafe are going to be our first two, our auto bans. These are played last week, of course, so we're not going to be seeing them getting repeated. No repetition here. We're going to be moving on. So our first set of maps actually banned out. Coastline and Villa. You know, I'm always a little bit sad when Villa goes missing on the sheet. I love going to Villa. I love the rolling hills of Tuscany. But no, we won't be having that for this matchup. And
sadly,
this is
not.
Our final set of maps. Come on, fingers crossed. Everyone knows what I'm wanting for. As we're
actual disappointment.
Oregon.
Actual pain. I was thinking that maybe these boys, since they were sitting in Twitch chat earlier in the evening, would have listened to us and you know, given us Chalet the proper birthday gift, but no, they've decided to do us dirty.
That is... Oh. Okay, well, we're going to be going to Oregon. That's our map for this matchup. However, I shall be the bearer of bad news. We're going to have to take a small little 10-minute break to get some technical stuff worked out, but when we are back, we're going to be in store for a very exciting matchup. So, for the time being, if you haven't already, go get yourself a beverage, get some snacks, sit back, enjoy, relax, join a watch party, and get ready, because this will be an exciting matchup. Lots to prove between these teams, so we shall see you in 10.
Through the fire, I could conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red light. could run through the fire, I could conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red. I could, I could, I could, I could,
I could run through the fire.
conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red light, I could run through the fire, I could conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red, I could, I could, I could, I could,
I could run through the fire.
Keep thinking that I could have done something, but now I'm left with an empty heart. No making amends, no waking up beside you and holding you till we forget it all. How could I know there was no second chances? Like dominoes, my life got really scattered. You couldn't keep the door shut, and now the frostbite's creeping in. 'Cause I've been stone cold since you left me here. So come home, why won't you reappear? Things that I said came out totally wrong. Can't speak of the truth when it's tainted. I fell into a big black hole. It got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. Got me stone cold. No Wizard of Oz can undo what I've done. Completely out of luck this time. I'm stuck in reverse. I gotta get away now, but I can't seem to take the lead. Oh baby, how could I know there was no second chances? Like dominoes, my life got really scattered. Can't speak of the truth when it's tainted. I fell into a big black hole. It got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. Got me stone cold.
Ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we do come bearing some bad news. For the time being, the Froggers unfortunately can't make this matchup, so they will unfortunately have to forfeit, giving Sniper Monkeys 3 points, and thus Froggers may just be out of contention for making their way to the playoffs. But Luckily enough for us, we are maintaining a rolling schedule, meaning that we are going to be working as hard as possible behind the scenes to get our final matchup of the evening set up, basically in record time. That is going to be the Minutemen. I almost wanted to say the Mexicans, which would have been extremely awkward, but now that the cat's out of the bag, it is the Minutemen, and they will be facing up against Randy Ravens. We're going to get things sorted on our end as soon as possible, so we don't waste you guys' time and we can bring you guys the action as soon as humanly possible. We will be taking a rather extensive break as a result, but still, you do want to stick around because this last matchup is potentially going to be a big one, specifically for Randy Ravens. They are still in contention for that top 4, and it is it's definitely something that they do want to achieve. So stay tuned. We'll be back shortly as soon as we have things figured out on our end so we can close off the Playday. We'll see you in a bit.
Always think of you when spring comes, like it's something in the air at that time. Don't know why. Always dream of you when spring comes. It's like the heat on my skin takes me back to the time met you on a Friday, halfway out at the door of the club, playing soul on the weekends. Stayed in bed till Wednesday. Fell in love with you right there and then. I was young, couldn't see that. Couldn't see that. Leather jacket, though it's too cold. Saw your face in the crowd, and I think we'll have died. Her she's perfect, yeah, she's beautiful. Never thought you'd be here. It took me by surprise when I met you in the doorway. And a friend of a friend, never thought I would see you this soon, but hope she really loves you. 'Cause I swear you deserve everything. Wish that I knew that sooner. We got sober, it was over, but I told you I'll do it all over again. At your place over spring break, a heartache. I'll do it all over again. Do it all over Tell me a lie, and I tell you too. I say that I'm happy for the two of you. You wanna be friends, but I don't think I can. But I wanna be happy, happy for you.
Talk to me nice, talk to me honestly. Look in my eyes, don't let it fall on me. Say you a good guy, make me believe it. Don't wanna hear it, I wanna see it. See how rewind when we rewind. Feels so nice. We time, you I know
conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red light, I could run through the fire, I could conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red, I could, I could, I could, I could,
I could run through the fire.
conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red light, I could run through the fire, I could conquer the night. If I can make it, if I try to draw the red, I could, I could, I could, I could,
I could run through the fire.
Keep thinking that I could have done something, but now I'm left with an empty heart. No making amends, no waking up beside you and holding you till we forget it all. How could I know there was no second chances? Like dominoes, my life got really scattered. You couldn't keep the door shut, and now the frostbite's creeping in. 'Cause I've been stone cold since you left me here. So come home, why won't you reappear? Things that I said came out totally wrong. Can't speak of the truth when it's tainted. I fell into a big black hole. It got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. Got me stone cold. No Wizard of Oz can undo what I've done. Completely out of luck this time. I'm stuck in reverse. I gotta get away now, but I can't seem to take the lead. Oh baby, how could taking chances like dominoes. My life got really scattered. Still, I find myself hoping that you'll find your way back to me. 'Cause I've been stone cold since you left me here. So come home. Why won't you reappear? Things that I said came out totally wrong. Can't speak of the truth when it's tainted. I fell into a big black hole. It got me stone cold. You got me stone cold. It got me stone cold.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to B-Whale Season 2, week number 6. We apologize for the wait, but unfortunately enough, it is what it is. We have our very final matchup of the evening just over the horizon. It is the Minutemen, who have currently yet to actually concede any kind of 7-0 score lines throughout the entire season thus far. That is basically one hell of a record to hold on to unironically. They have not yet been 7-0'd, and obviously, predictions. Randy Ravens, are they going to 7-0 the Minutemen this time around? No team has been able to accomplish that. Randy Ravens, they may be the first.
It's what an interesting way to introduce the matchup. Yeah, I mean, for context, in case you're viewing us for the very first time on this Playdate, Minutemen have had a less than stellar performance in the season so far. Out of the games they've played, all 5 of them, they have yet to score a single point. They have, I believe, suffered quite a significant amount of 7-1, 7-2 losses, and I think the round differential speaks for itself, being minus 27. They've not put on the best of shows, but they are staying persistent, to say the least. And they've been here every play day. They're playing to enjoy themselves. It's like Minotti at F1. Minotti went racing because they could. Minutemen are here playing competitive Siege because they can, and it's going to be an important match for Randy Ravens nonetheless. They're third in the standings right now, so they'll have a great potential to launch themselves up, tied for points for number 1 with Imperium of Mandem after their victory earlier today. So, important match.
Yeah, important match. I thought that I personally did them dirty in the introductions, but you just coming out and saying they're just here to play competitive Siege and not have anything to show for it. Whew, no, different level entirely, but okay. So, Randy Ravens, obviously this is going to be a relatively big matchup for them, but at the end of the day, it could still be extremely one-sided, and it could definitely be a curb stomp on their end. Obviously, each and every single squad that has actually gone up against the Minutemen has walked away with 3 points. It really is just that cut and dry. There's no other way to slice it, unfortunately enough. And on the side of the Minutemen, they haven't necessarily been able to actually show us the goods throughout these last couple of 5 weeks. So at the very least, our expectations are that Randy Ravens are going to walk away with 3 points and then immediately propel themselves up in the leaderboard on the standings and tie things up with Imperium of Mondem. So both of these two squads will eventually comfortably sit on 13 points. But once again, we do have a couple of fresh faces to go ahead and meet. So let's go ahead and take a look at the roster sheets for these two squads.
Certainly. So, I am some of the worst at pronouncing names. I always am. So,
Yep.
Okay, help me out with number 1, because I see a 1 in there, and that's completely fried my brain. So
I'm going to go ahead and ignore the L-E at the end. Smith.
Okay, Smithley. Okay, I can work with that. Definitely, of course, Trash Waifu, Mali, and Ainoob. All people that I can easily recite their names, of course. I know a pretty strong roster, and I say it every time I see them. Every Playday, I always mention this about Randy Ravens, or they have. If you were to plot their results on a chart, it's just going up. They are putting up better and better results every single time we see them. They're looking stronger. They're looking more well regimented. It's a real, I think right now, they are a massive contender to lock in a top 4 spot, and if they can get victory here today, they're going to be sitting really pretty in a very comfortable position. Minutemen, of course, their opposition is going to be Age of Soul, Dumfries, Kieran, Sauce, and Arnid. Again, they haven't had the best of results, but does set them up for a pretty big underdog storyline. If they were able to find their very first victory of the entire season here today, that might be the biggest upset we've had this season, because that would really hamper Randy Ravens. As we have mentioned through the entirety of this broadcast, how close these standings are. If Randy Ravens cannot get points today, they are essentially stranded in the middle of shark-infested water, because tomorrow Lockdown Ludens and the Princesses will be playing, and those two teams are, in that top 4 standings as we speak. And if they can grow that deficit further away from Randy Ravens, it makes their job of locking in top 4 a bit extra hard.
Yeah, definitely so. Obviously, as things stand right now, Minutemen, they're not even necessarily close to even sniffing contention for top 4 at this certain point. The most that they can actually do throughout the last couple of weeks that we do have left, of which there are 3 weeks, 7, 8, and 9, so 3 more weeks of play to go. All they can really accomplish is just essentially disrupt all of the other teams' agendas within BUAL Season 2 for the time being. And obviously, at the very least that Minutemen actually have to do to quite literally cause chaos for those teams that are in contention for the top 4 is essentially just bring them all to overtime. But given their past records, not necessarily being able to scramble together more than 2 rounds, I'd say it's very unlikely. But once again, if they want to be the devil within the Badass University All-Stars League, then they can definitely put up a massive performance. It's something that we have been waiting the past roughly 6 weeks for them to actually bring on out. But still, if they are able to actually disrupt a lot of these teams' schedules, agendas, by forcing them to overtime, thus essentially ensuring that the top teams acquire less and less points, then Minutemen can certainly give themselves a pat on the back for accomplishing that at the very least. But let's not waffle on any longer, as we do have our war zone of choice to discuss between these two squads.
So, as I was talking before we went on a little bit of a technical break, we in the production booth don't always, sometimes can spoil the results for ourselves. We have that benefit, but this time I haven't looked at the map ban, so I haven't seen what map we're going to. So our 2 auto bans coming out are going to be Cafe and Villa. That's going to get brought out. A second official ban's going to be Oregon and Coastline. This is going to be lining up for an intriguing one. I like it. Yes! Yes! There it is! Clubhouse Consulate, say goodbye as Chalet, our war zone of choice between these 2 teams. And we won't have to wait too much longer to get into this action, because I believe we're all but ready to hop into it as well. Chalet,
Indeed.
The newest map in competitive play, and one of the most exciting to watch. Tudor, I can't wait for this.
Neither can I. It is the perfect gift. Both Randy Ravens and the Minutemen were listening in, just quietly lurking in Twitch chat, basically rubbing their hands together like a fiendish little fly. And just like that, we have got Chalet. Everything that the 2 of us could have hoped for is, well, now finally coming to fruition. And personally, well, as much as I do love a bit of Chalet, I personally do also need quite a bit of practice, since I've only casted this map like twice ever since it was actually introduced into the comp scene. So I may be a little bit rusty, but regardless, I'm going to need to freshen up on all my calls and just overall strategies. And, well, here we are, just about to get underway into one of the most beautiful skyboxes that Ubisoft has created for us thus far. Randy Ravens and Minutemen on Chalet.
Cannot wait to get into this one. So, it's an interesting map. A Thatcher ban is not essential here on Chalet, just because it's a different dynamic. Verticality reigns supreme. I'm really intrigued to see if any of the teams will be inclined to not ban out the SAS. I
Never mind. Yeah.
Okay, again, while not a necessary ban, does make sense. Getting rid of the Thatcher makes your job a little bit easier, so it's easy, it's such a blanket operator. Those EMPs are a massive benefit, so banning them away in the ban phase makes lots of sense.
Yeah, indeed it does. And obviously, Chalet as a map, it kind of does give you a little bit of leeway to actually bring out substitutes, but at the exact same time, as you stated, it's not necessarily, well, a necessity to ban out Thatcher on this particular map, just because of the fact that there are that many workarounds to the point that it doesn't necessarily warrant a Thatcher ban, all things considered. But naturally, once the SAS operator has gone, Kaid is going to have to join him on the bleachers. It is basically just an unspoken rule of Rainbow Six Siege at this certain point, and I can only assume that Mira is going to round things off. I'd be surprised if it was anything different, and, well, call me surprised, because Malusi won't see play.
You know, not too surprised, all considering looking at our bans. The only outlier would be that Jackal, and I'm not too sure how I feel about it. Again, birthday gift from Chalet. Thank you very much. I'm so excited of it. It's gonna be a good one. All the wonderful messages in chat. Love to see it. Wouldn't celebrate my birthday any other way than, of course, casting some fantastic Siege. But as I was talking, this Jackal ban, intriguing. I don't necessarily think the Inox utility brings the most viability on a map like this, because that roam presence is not the most difficult thing to isolate and shut down. Rotations are pretty scarce on this map, so no mirror for you.
No. But if Sauce is bringing out the sausage on Capcan, I can throw him a bone.
Okay.
He's not. I'm upset. I'm disappointed.
Saj.
My day has been ruined. My disappointment is immeasurable.
You're Oh, we've gone mad in the break. That's we had to go what? More than 20 minutes without a cast? We've broken.
I
Brain
know, the
machine
horror. The kind of things that 20 minutes can do to a man.
Wow, I mean,
absolutely ridiculous.
The things 20 minutes can do to a caster. It's,
yeah.
You know, brave to put us in the human box.
Yeah, exactly. If we're not out there spitting facts, or at the very least trying to, you know, practice our lyricism and rap gods, then we will quite literally go clinically insane. That's just the sad truth about it. Yeah.
Proven fact. Okay.
The
So,
same thing does happen if we're actually casting for more than 4 hours
Yeah.
straight. We will also go insane after that.
Looks like Rose is making a second appearance today.
Nice.
Nice, indeed.
Hmm.
The Imperial Man then player making a second appearance today, stepping in for Minutemen, perhaps to help them lead to get some extra results here. So upstairs he went, the very first site getting brought up, Master Bedroom. A very strong and versatile site with a great number of ways to both defend and attack. Looks like the initial push are going to come towards that library side, and that's to be expected. The entire western side is going to be a high traffic area, no matter what your ideas are. So playing around this position for your entry makes sense, but Dumfries is going to perhaps forget his spatial awareness as Ainoob lurks on K9, and Bull finds the opening kill. His 7.62 range supreme, and he gets the opening kill. And that's going to be a great moment. It's definitely going to get on the bandwagon and find Rose with the M4, giving a very hefty advantage early in this round. The attacking side around the Ravens sitting pretty on 5 versus 3.
Unfortunate enough that Rose was the second to fall. Nice little nitrocell will be tossed on out, but the detonation was delayed by just a couple of seconds. Meant that Deathly could scamper away to safety as well. And that does give Randy Ravens the leeway to open up that breach over by K9 as well, effectively pincering this entire defensive setup. Lovely little shot coming out from Yukio on the pepperoni as well, is going to decapitate Comrade, leaving Randy Ravens in a 4v3 scenario, but that's quickly converted into a 4v2-ish trash waifu. Woo, I refuse to call them trash wifey. Because it's just not as fancy. Either way, regardless, that's going to leave Sauce in a 1v4 clutch scenario as he tosses out a couple of Pokeballs, but none shall be added to his Pokédex this time around. It's going to be Deathly. He's rewarded with the final kill onto the Capcan, who was brought out, dropped by my favorite operator, Mira, in the game. Oh, such a very big disappointment, and definitely one for the Minutemen as well, as they can't seal the deal in round number 1.
Well, that Mirror getting 6 picked away too, perhaps not only a disappointment for you with your enjoyment of one of the community's favorite Spanish operators, but the fact is that those Mirror windows are not in particular. And considering the push we saw from Randy Ravens, all from that library side, well, those Mirror windows can be put on that kind of half wall area and just exist. They can exist, gather information, and act as a massive deterrent for anyone to push up that blue hallway, to even commit a very scary moment there for Deathly. A plonk of a C4 escapes luckily, but a very clean round from Randy Ravens, all things considered. I mean, not much to write home about on that. They played it pretty default and standard. They've done, meat and potato siege. There wasn't anything bleeding edge, but at the end of the day, just doing your basics right and doing your basics right consistently is key to this. And a map like this, which is still new, still in that development phase, and I think will be a pretty simplistic map in the core necessities of how to play it, because Chalet doesn't have, I think, too many unique features, but it has lots of really good features. Lots of verticality, lots of angle setups, and lots of key walls to fight about, especially inside a master bedroom. And so being able to be efficient on the way you set these up, the way you clear utility off these walls, the way you get them open, going to benefit teams. And Randy Ravens, I think, are one of those teams that can benefit from that level of structure, that level of ability.
Yeah, definitely so. Now, obviously, Chalet is in a bit of an interesting situation because of the fact that it is one of, if not the only map in recent memory that is actually full-on attacker-sided since its introduction. Typically, a lot of maps will be heavily defender-sided when they are released, or at the very least brought into the comp pool, but Chalet is a clear exception. Good of Dumfries to actually catch 2 drones, if I'm not mistaken. Basically adding 2 of them to his extra army, and he's going to duel things out with Mali over by Library Window, but unfortunately enough, the lethality simply isn't there. If they were able to have actually shut down one of the 2 Heartbreachers on the side of Randy Ravens, that could have been an absolutely massive start for the Minutemen, but unfortunately enough, it's going to amount to nothing but a missed opportunity. Deathly is going to swing into Library, shuts down Yukio on the Jaeger, who I believe was down below. A bit of a sneaky position, but unfortunately enough, it won't bear any fruit. Dumfries is still lingering over by the top of Library Staircase, but not for any longer, as Deathly has dealt with him quite easily.
That's 3 gates going to be a little bit of a problem if it's not going to get opened up or displaced for the time being, or they might entirely focus through that wall. Looks like they're going to be clearing this utility off very quickly. Aegis Saul is going to get pressured by that drone, and the Maverick going to lob that grenade through the pre-opened hole. Going to clear away that utility and force back the Valkyrie. Information is going to be super important right now to gather, because yes, you've got map control, that initial advantage, and this pressure is mounting. It's going to be uncomfortable for the Minutemen defensive side to hold on here. But if you don't know where these last 3 defenders are, they could stage a bit of a comeback. They can rally back and find some momentum in this round. It's not beyond the realm of possibility. As Sauce looks to take a very dangerous engagement, as Saul is going to be peering around that half wall and finds Deathly. That's going to reduce the deficit to a single player now, so there's a great opportunity. Ainoob on that window repel is going to present a very difficult challenge, however. It's a difficult angle to fight against and covers lots of the site and makes Master Bedroom almost impossible to play. Rooney coming up those stairs by Library, sitting patiently and finds the kill there on the Maui. That's going to be a 3 versus 3 now. Chasing perhaps, but no, the red pings make them think better of it, as Ainoob's going to get that kill. Aegis Saul kills Ainoob, I should say, as Comrade Barney finds on the Sauce. 2 versus 2, 30 seconds now remain. Trash Wifey looks to get aggressive and finds the kill on the Valkyrie. A scrappy engagement indeed, left on around 5 HP. He's got to get this plant down, and both attackers aren't going to be too healthy in this final engagement. The plant's going to start going down now. Will it stick? I think it will. And yes, this Rose now left in a post-plant situation of 1 versus 2. Lots of HP to work with, and in the previous game where we saw how effective they can be with this P10 Roni, have a weapon that they're comfortable with. The information perhaps is there. They had a Valkyrie on the board. The yellow pings are certainly there, so the Roni finds the head of 1. A fantastic shot on the Comrade Barney now in a 1 versus 1. 25 seconds, so Lot Diffuser hits critical. Trash Waifu can only take 1 bullet before going to the grave. 20 seconds now. A flurry of shots through the wall. A pistol run from Rose, looks to get aggressive. Flashbang blinds it. Oh! Who needs eyes when you've got that secondary? The Beretta does the job, and with just enough time spare, that diffuser gets disabled. And well, Minutemen, they're going to be able to claim a round, tying us up 1 apiece here on Chalet.
And we both thought that Rose was the master of the pepperoni, but that right there was a clear example that they're a master of each and every single gun in the game, regardless as to whether or not you include actual sight into the equation. Absolutely ridiculous stuff. And the main reason why it was actually that ridiculous is because Randy Ravens, they basically played that execution to perfection. Keep in mind, that Rose was currently mounting a flank to actually stabilize things on the side of the Minutemen. There were only two players that were, or two defenders I should say, that were still holding down the fort, the actual two bomb sites, and Randy Ravens, they basically dealt with those two anchors with one swift blow. Rose had such a massive gap to close, and they were able to actually do that perfectly, to the point that they actually had sufficient rotations and alleyways to actually work their way into, crawl their way through, and take the fight directly to the last standing, the two remaining players on the side of Randy Ravens. One was tucked behind the cubby, behind the piano itself. Quick little burst fire from the pepperoni. Just like that, converted to a 1v1. But that's when things started going scrappy. That is when you can no longer rely on logic and traditionalism to close things out, just pure instinct. And whether or not Rose got lucky with that spray and pray as their retinas were being burned, it was still magical to see. Minutemen, they've been able to secure their first round, so unfortunately enough for Randy Ravens, you guys won't have the luxury of being the first team to 7-0 the Minutemen this time around. We'll be having to, well, call up the next team next week to see if they can instead reward us with a 7-0 to Minutemen, but only time can tell.
Certainly so, and time an important ally on a map like Chalet. So this is going to be an interesting thing. This map historically has always been, even in its old, original, horrific form, was attacker-sided. Randy Ravens, I think a lot of that kind of still carries through, and this mirror window being brought out could be something very useful to turn the tides. The amount of information this is gathering. Yes, it's not an active threat. The wall beside it's reinforced. You can't, be slain out from it, but they know. The defense side of Minutemen, they know what you're doing. They know what you're plotting, what decisions you're making, but it looks like they've sent a Twitch drone in, and that window's been popped. And iNoob's going to benefit from that. He's going to be able to land the shot from long range on the Rose, opening up this round. And well, they weren't paying enough attention. That Twitch drone slipped in behind the front lines. And now, there is a peering hole. It works both ways in the wise words of Emzo, so now, what advantage the defense had has become perhaps their kryptonite.
Indeed it has, but Dumfries isn't going to let that cause not much of a headache for the Minutemen. He's able to actually shut down deathly one of the two hard breachers that was actually putting that Surrey torch to good use over by the garage panel, the main one that is over by Snowmobile. Lovely little shot coming out from the MPX of Age of Soul as well to stabilize things. Actually, no, that is simply the man advantage now in favor of the Minutemen, as for the first time in quite a while, they sit in a 4v3 scenario and have, or I should say, maintain the upper hand. And now, well, the ball is certainly in the court of Randy Ravens, as they are starting to run short on time, manpower, and overall resources to work with. Eventually, they're going to have to brute force their way in through these reinforcements as well as that Surya gate and take the fight directly to the Minutemen. Okay, NJ Sauce, I see what you up to.
An interesting combination there, as Mali's going to find one of the Yukio. A difficult fight to take now as Boiler's been opened up, and while you see Sauce is going to fight him on two fronts, left and right. A very uncomfortable position, but the coverage is there by Blue Door, but that player's going to get spotted out by the drones, and pressure begins to mount. 29 seconds left to go as Comrade Barney queues up to try and take the fight. He's going to be able to try and take that engagement. Age of Saw lobs a C4, but to no avail. Sauce gets one, but instantly traded away. A 2 versus 2, make that a 2 versus 1 as Trash Wifey gets on the action. The diffuser going to get recovered by Boiler, but Age of Saul in a tricky engagement around the rotate left on one. The plant's surely going to go down now. The Nomad working on it. Smoke grenades to cover up that visibility. 8 seconds left on round. No 000 required. The plant goes down at 1 versus 2 with 1 HP in a dream. Valkyrie, Age of Saul, what can you do?
He sees the foot through the drone hole, but he doesn't realize it.
Oh no. Only if he knew. But this is going to be a tricky fight. Watched from long and well. It only took one bullet at the end of the day. 762 from downtown as Trash Wifey finds the bullet that sends him to the Shadow Realm. And that's going to be another round in favor of Randy Ravens. But you have to consider this. It was a very tight round indeed.
It was.
Minutemen, perhaps, looking the strongest they've looked this entire season. So, brave words, brave assumption. But perhaps, are they on to show a little bit extra from what we're used to seeing? And you never know. Pressure could mount. I just imagine if this was an upset result. I'm kind of just I'm trying to will this into existing, because man, what a result it would be. Just imagine how chaotic it would be for our standings if Randy Ravens drop points here.
Like I said, the most that the Minutemen can actually accomplish throughout the next couple of weeks until the end of the season is to disrupt the standings entirely. And so far, well, they've certainly shown us that they are definitely capable of doing exactly that. But I gotta say that this entire round that has just actually taken place was a massive scuffle. Through and through. Minutemen, they were firmly in the driver's seat, and Randy Ravens, well, everything was basically stacked against them. They didn't necessarily have any avenues to work with. The single doorway that they could actually push through was the one over by Trench. They had to shut down the Surya Gate and then just barge their way into the bomb site, basically kicking down the hypothetical door and letting the Minutemen know that they are here for a fight, and a fight they were able to actually bring. I believe it actually was Comrade Barney who kicked things off by simply bum rushing the mirror of Sauce at the time behind the wine cellar, behind the wine cabinets, or whatever you like to call them. And just like that, was able to actually open up the entire execution. And when it came down to that 1v2 situation for Age of Soul, it was definitely winnable despite being left on very low HP. And as I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys in Twitch that actually did also piece together, they did actually spot out Comrade Barney's feats through that drone hole, but unfortunately enough, they didn't actually pick up that on time. It could have definitely been winnable. It could have definitely been Minutemen's second round, but we're going to see if they can actually grab it for themselves, nab it for themselves as they are revisiting the basement this time in round number 4.
Choosing to go back down to the basement's an interesting choice, but it looks like they're going to extend their roam presence upstairs a little bit, and Dumfries is going to be on that job. Lots of drones scurrying around the feet of this Jaeger is not going to make it a very comfortable experience, but knowing that there's a player upstairs, and that could be an active threat to your initial entry on the northern side of the building, could act as a little bit of a deterrent and burn away that time, which at the end of the day is a very important task for those roamers to do. Definitely poking lots of holes in this wall, and I wonder if breaching it necessarily is secondary thought and just making it uncomfortable for anyone to even give themselves or leave themselves exposed to it for a brief second. Comrade Barney's Twitch drone is not going to find a mirror window, but it will find a mute jammer, so they're going to be able to take that piece of utility away and now leave that wall open to get breached up. Molly's going to have those ace elements to work with as well, and it looks like, well, yes, Maverick is just planning applying pressure, poking holes in that wall, while the initial push, the initial breach, will come from the big garage side of the building.
And Dumfries is still lingering around over by Trophy. I believe that somebody has already caught his scent for the time being, but yet to deal with him. Goes for the challenge onto Ainu, but just a couple of shots exchanged between themselves as NSJ Sauce is surprisingly the first to fall. That's also a Nitrocell flush down the drain on the side of Minutemen, and they are relegated to just 4 players left standing. But they still hold on to quite a large chunk of overall map control, considering the fact that the roam presence is still in play. However, Randy Ravens, they're actually opting to ignore it. They've decided to, well, shift all of their focus towards getting this wine cellar open, so they actually have an avenue to, well, start and mount up their execution for the time being. Dumfries is going to clap back, shuts down Comrade Barney, and Inoob is immediately going to return the favor, not letting Minutemen hold onto the man advantage. Randy Ravens want to do that themselves. 25 seconds left to go, and Minutemen once again find themselves getting smacked across the face with a sense of deja vu.
A tricky round, the position to find yourselves in for both teams now with 15 seconds remaining on the clock. The execution has to happen now, and the defense can just sit pretty, but Rose is going to be on the receiving end of some damage, but Yukio is going to get that trade. 10 seconds remain, Diffuser, no man's land. Well, this hatch play is going to be super important, but no, they're going to have an opportunity. The drop is there and read into 3 kills for Inoob. We're going to hit 000, and the coverage is here. Will the plant go down as Age of Soul once again in a post-plant 1 versus 2? A moment of deja vu, perhaps, but far more HP to work with this time. SMG-11 primed and ready. What damage can he do? Both remaining attackers grouped up in close proximity. He has a C4 available. We hear that air jab bringing off the distance. He knows he's got to make something happen, and happen soon. Drastic measures are required. If he loves a C4 here, he could be in luck. Use it to either clear that utility or find the kills, but he's opting to go to that rotation. The peak is there, and well, Trash Waifu finds the kill, and Randy Ravens get their second successive round on this basement attack.
Really outstanding execution on the side of Randy Ravens once again, and the fact that they were actually, well, firmly in the driver's seat throughout that entire round basically solidified their victory, and it was definitely much more assured compared to round number 3, where things got relatively dicey, especially throughout that mid-round as the execution was starting to be put into motion. And unfortunately enough, on the side of the Minutemen, well, they simply didn't have the manpower on the actual bomb site to keep the attackers at bay for as long as possible, because as we saw, when it came down to that 2v2 scenario, as the plant was starting to go down, not necessarily the second attempt when we actually did hit 000, but the initial plant, we had a player that was, if I'm not mistaken, that was actually Rose playing atop the hatch, who unfortunately enough couldn't collect the kill onto iNoob on the Zofia, which was really, really unfortunate, and they made the unfortunate decision to actually drop down the hatch straight into iNoob's open arms, and just like that, Age of Soul once again had to try to pull off a miracle, and it simply wasn't in the cards for them either this time around. Unfortunately enough for the Minutemen, well, they've already realized that basement is no longer a solid option as a bomb site, and considering the fact that Master Bedroom has indeed been unlocked, they can and will choose to revisit it this time around in an attempt to secure their second round.
You know, we've only seen the two sites getting brought out now, and well, the decision to go to the basement twice is perhaps the most perplexing one in this matchup so far, because the new Games and Bar is very much a strong and viable site, as well as downstairs and kitchen if set up appropriately. And I do say the basement is perhaps the weakest of the three, so for Minutemen opt to go there 2 times in a row and well not come out with a victory out of either of them, perhaps could be detrimental to this defensive split. We see some bullet holes getting used out by Dumfries. If the drones come around, he should be a little reasonably safe as they go through this initial buffering. The window's cracked open. He's cautious of waiting. And he's just going to sit pretty, hold his position. Sauce is going to take a little bit of damage off in the distance. Not ideal. As we see 4 bodies queuing up and preparing to push on the library. Not necessarily aware of the player down below. And these Mozzie pests combined with the mute jammers might make this a tricky game of information gathering and force him to push in blind.
Definitely so, and at the very least, it's able to wind down Randy Ravens' clock. Obviously, having to skirt around those pests and jammers takes quite a bit of skill, and going in blind is not necessarily something, or it's not necessarily a risk that the Ravens may want to take this time around. Time, while there is still a plenty, is starting to run down quite quickly. Randy Ravens haven't even been able to solidify a beachhead inside of library, which is usually, as a lot of us know, step 1 of mounting an execution on this top floor attack. However, they have barged their way in through K9 and soon enough through Piano as well. But by the looks of things, I don't believe that there is a mute jammer. There may be on the opposite side of this wall, but it's going to be naded out soon, and you can hear that. Well, NJ Sauce, he's going to skirt away, but luckily enough for him, that ADS was actually caught, or that frag grenade was caught by an ADS, and here comes Rose swinging in from Piano, finds one, but the trade comes in through the window as well. So no harm, no foul technically, but regardless, Randy Ravens are starting to turn up the heat, and Minutemen, they're going to start feeling rather uncomfortable.
That was a massive blow to lose Rose. A very high traffic area by that Piano nonetheless, but a very fantastic read in to get that trade. A little bit delayed, but eventually this wall is going to get opened up, so will they be able to make use of that? 2 players deep instead of Office holding the line. Saria Date seemingly been slain out. Yes, it has. Barbed wire, only 1 batch is being cleared, so they still present a bit of a challenge, and they're working on getting the rest of it. These defenders grouping up, but all they must do now is burn away that timer. 30 seconds remains, and as pressure mounts, so the offense have to make a lunge into the objective. And that's going to be Dumfries from behind, finding that kill. Yukio's going to battle away, and that's going to be a wonderful kill. As now a 4 versus 2, and Trash Wife is going to be looking left and right, but runs into the SMG-12 and K1A of the Vigil. And just like that, Minutemen showing. And they've got a little bit of bite left in them. They can draw some blood, even if the standings aren't looking too great for them as we move into round number 6. And this could be a very interesting round because if Minutemen can find some success here, they will go into the attacking split on a level playing field. And I don't think they've had that benefit, that luxury many times so far. So this could be a very important round for them. They're going back down to the basement. 3rd time of asking. And in my heart of heart, I don't believe this was the wisest choice to choose this site yet again. They've shown, they've made adaptations, they played around that hatch and it nearly worked out. They nearly found that defining factor that could get them that victory, but this is one of the weaker sites. It's super vulnerable to a variety of attacking methods, and they've already lost it twice.
I don't exactly know what they can do differently this time around. Obviously, making changes that drastic to the point that you're dropping a Mira altogether and then actually throwing in a couple of roamers to the mix may not necessarily be the kind of step-by-step adaptations you usually are accustomed to seeing on a round-by-round basis. But I'm really curious to see exactly what the Minutemen have in stock for us this time around. Obviously, given the win rates that we have seen and the fact that they are 0 for 2 on the basement, I wouldn't be surprised if Randy Ravens walk away from this opening half with a 4-2 split. And given how solid, how surgical their previous executions have been, I think it's definitely, I think it's definitely, well, not necessarily in the realm of possibility, but I think it's almost a given that Randy Ravens will take this round as well, because Minutemen, whilst they have been able to get themselves on the good foot, get themselves a really, really good start to some of these basement rounds, the mid to execution portions are where things go south. And here, well, a bit of an explosive start as they actually decided to, well, hop through a rotation over by that beer barrel portion of the map outside of games. They're just flooding the Minutemen. They don't even know what's hitting them. It is absolute chaos left, right, and center. And just like that, the Minuteman has been relegated to the Minuteman, and that is Yukio on the Vigil. He's able to clean up Comrade Barney, and just like that, in record time, the diffuser has already gone down. The clock's been reset to 40 seconds, and Yukio, he's unfortunately left to his own devices.
Oh, dearie me. It's going to be a tricky one, to say the least, but if it's pulled off, it will be a clutch of historic proportions. A tricky engagement down the blue stairs, but reality kicks us in the teeth every so often, as definitely gets that final kill to close out the round. Minutemen a better showing than normal, but the curse of going down to a same site 3 times, especially considering it is not one of the most ideal sites on Chalet, leaves a little bit to be desired from that defensive split. So, moving into round number 7, the side swap, of course, has occurred. Randy Ravens lead 4-2. Trust Waifu having a wonderful performance so far, leading the charge in those wonderful stats. I wasn't expecting the stats screen to come back up. It started me there. I rarely talk about the numbers. I try to keep that swift.
Yeah, you usually leave that honor to me, but
exactly.
I was kind of like neck deep in my notes for the time being, as I was just scribbling things across with my number 2 pencil.
Oh.
But I did catch on the fact that
Interesting.
yeah, number 2 pencil. I did actually catch on the fact that Trash Waifu does have a cost of 100%, which, if you guys already don't know, well, first of all, shame on you. Cost downs for kills, objective, survivability, and trades. And every single time that you technically impact a round, you gain a single point, which is then divided by the total of rounds played. So effectively speaking, Trash Waifu Wu has made impact in each and every single round of play thus far, making them, well, arguably the MVP for tonight's matchup on Chalet.
So, variation in defense is something I always like to see when it's a brand new map, because teams have different ideas, different philosophies of how to set these up and how to attack, and so far I've not seen much of a change, much of a difference at all, you know. Lots of teams I've seen in some recent time have played around opening up library and fighting a long angle with the shield to support that, by the double doorway at blue hallway and by piano, but this time they're gonna not opt for that at all, and we're seeing the entirety of piano, or I should say, the entirety of library left somewhat available and free for the taking. The Soul of Rooney will be fighting for that control, but as we've seen, it's very exposed to fight these positions at top landing, especially with a rotation towards K9 could really hamper any potential movement. That drone's going to get stopped by that Jammer, but it looks like a very opening engagement soon to arrive, and someone chasing behind that Gemini replicator, but to no avail, finding around 40 damage worth on the Wynoob, and the Aruni escapes, rotates away, and remains a threat for several more seconds.
Yeah, it's gonna definitely be interesting to see exactly what iNoob is toying with for the time being, because they are in a prime position to strike, but obviously they want to wait until the perfect moment does eventually come around, as I believe they are downstairs in the basement. Unfortunately enough, Rooney doesn't have a C4 in the back pocket, so he's going to have to do things the old-fashioned way when they do decide to actually mount up a flank, but peering at just the right... Oh, never mind. I thought it was just the right moment, but turns out it was the wrong moment. Dumfries, good job of baiting out iNoob. Well, basically baiting out the Surya, thinking, or making him think that you were about to get started on the breach when you were actually just watching the rotate. It was well thought out, and that means that the Minutemen hold on to the man advantage, and now it can only go up from here.
Smoke grenade deploy, but gives some visual cover perhaps. A 5 versus 4 with a minute left to work in this round. So Minutemen have the advantage for now, but can they capitalize on it? Comrade Barney laying in wait exactly. Sees the breaching round just ahead of him, but no! Caught in a horrible crossfire. Is he going to get shut down? A flurry of kills as Dumfries is now next to go with 3 versus 3 to ensue. A trade-off is there as Aegis Soul gets into the action. It's Trosh Waifu as well, and Maui finds one of Aegis Soul. It looks so good for the Minutemen, but just like that, Randy Ravens have collapsed upon them, laid their trap and pounced. And now a 2 versus 1 in favor of that defensive side. The Ashe on low HP, but Trash Waifu not looking too healthy either. That Legion a single round away from going to the grave. Maui looks a little bit more healthy in this engagement, but still not too keen to fight this R4C head on. Looking for a way in now will be the Ashe. 15 seconds remain, so this timer's going to hit red. Critical phase of the round. The user has to be recovered, and something has to happen now. They need to make this play happen fast. They see the trace around, the C4 deployed to no avail. It's going to come down to getting aggressive and looking for these kills. Supposed to play a prone, but can't find the damage. And that's going to be the MP5K singing sweet, and that's going to be Randy Ravens claiming their very first defensive round.
We've got to beg the question exactly what went wrong in that round altogether for the for the Minutemen, excuse me, because basically everything was working in their favor. And if we even want to dissect things even farther, the setup that Minutemen had was, or excuse me, that Randy Ravens had, gosh, I'm just having an absolute cluster biff with the sides tonight. But regardless, the setup that Randy Ravens...
You do word good?
I do not do word good. I do them well.
Heck.
With 2 C's?
Of course. What do you think I am? Some form of...
Goblin?
Yes.
Filthy on-screen talent? Yeah, we're both some of that.
I mean, technically speaking, we're not on-screen talent right now.
No.
So we're the same class as all of the off-screenies. Our producer, in a very ominous threat, goes, "You want to get on-screen?"
I sure hope that he clips it on his end, because that is gonna be one for the TL. Unfortunately, guys in Twitch chat don't get to hear it, but you may come across it somewhere on social media later tonight. God, that actually sent shivers down my spine. Just Noah talking in our ears. You want to be on screen?
Producer talks with malicious intent as we go down to the basement. And well, speak of perhaps cursed places, the basement hasn't been a very welcoming place to the defensive side so far. The 4th time we've seen this site being played. Correct? Yes.
Yeah, that is indeed correct. This is the 4th time. That is the 4th time.
Yeah.
But
half of these rounds have been on the basement so far.
I mean,
and no defense has won it.
No, not yet. Maybe Randy Ravens are going to be the ones to actually break that trend this time around. Dumfries spots out a rotation being set up rather late, but can't capitalize it on it this time around. Oh, goodness gracious. Words do be difficult. And here comes Malu. Goes for the pounce out through the library window. He vaults, finds one onto Yukio as well, but the trade comes on through from Age of Soul. It was a rather scrappy gunfight, all things considered, but they're able to, well, keep things from going from bad to worse at the very least.
Oh, a very nasty angle there, and Comrade Barney, perhaps overzealous in his placement, is going to be going to the forever box in this round. He's going to be falling out of this, and the advantage now sits with the Minutemen once again, but we have seen them fall from grace in a 4 versus 3. Oh! Definitely! You can't do them like that! Woohoo! That's a dirty shot with the Soviet SMG. A minute 35 remains, and we're back to level playing field. 3 versus 3. The main wall's been opened up, and it looks like this is going to be the primary port of entry. No one's opting to rotate the other side, so it looks like these men are going to form up a line and brawl it out the old-fashioned way. One way in. Who's going to survive this one? The rotation finally called. A good decision as Dumfries will sit his position and split this site in half. It was Was that call made a fraction too late? As Deathly looks to try and peer around this corner and find another head. He's seen how accurate he can be as that diffuser marks the gravestone of Rose earlier in this fight as Dumfries finds on the Deathly and trades off that Capcan, and that could be the catalyst to open up this round.
Indeed it could. I mean, the fact that Dumfries was left on such little HP and was able to actually walk away from that gunfight relatively unscathed could potentially be round defining this time around, but they've got 2 more players to find, the Minutemen. Noob and Trash Waifu, who are the last 2 players that stand in between them and success, and they're not going to get it just yet. They're going to have to work extra hard for it, as Dumfries has indeed been the next to fall. Sauce somehow manages to land the shots onto Trash Waifu, and now it's all down to Ainu, pepperoni in hand, and he's ready to spray away at the heads. And as soon as they reveal themselves, finds the first, and that calms this down to a 1v1 scenario as this round has been brought to a grinding halt and is down to Age of Soul to make his move, and he's got to do it fast. He's got to take out that goo mine and try to stick the diffuser, and time is running short. We're about to hit 000 and he doesn't even get the goo mine out. Just like that, a winnable round slipping through the fingertips of Minutemen means that the Randy Ravens are going to sit on match point.
That must be an absolute gut punch for the Minutemen. They were so close to being able to get that round away. A very crucial engagement, I will say, from Ainu by the blue stairs to get that kill. But man, that goo mine, it's rare you see it acting as a plant denial, but it shows the versatility of Legion and...
It's the second time we saw it happen this evening, because we also did see it happen during IOM versus Chimp Hunters, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember exactly who was playing on the ace during one of the reading and dining attacks that we saw, but it was the ace that unfortunately got locked out of the reading room because of the castle barricade. That was a really amazing shot as well. At that certain point, you've got to just put the Spetsnaz SMG in the sink and give it a good old scrub, because you want to bury the evidence. That was nasty.
That was a dirty one indeed. So, the basement hasn't exactly been the most blessed place for the Minutemen, let's say now.
That's one way to code it, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So the Minutemen have, 3 times defending it, 1 time attacking it, and have come up short every time in the basement. That last round was the smallest margin by sure, came down to a goo mine, but a basement seemingly cursed for them, and now we're going to be seeing the use of the new bar gaming site, and I am a big proponent for this one. I love this site indeed. It's just an interesting one because it's got a great level of verticality you can set. And we have a lovely little factoid again, getting brought out by Noah, our wonderful producer, that in LATAM, this site on Chalet has the highest defensive win rate. So this is one of the strongest sites on Chalet and one in a very aggressive region, so I wonder if we'll see some of that getting translated into this setup.
Hopefully so. I mean, as we can already see, Randy Ravens, they've been experimenting with quite a couple of really interesting castle and Aruni strategies. As much as I'd actually love to dive into this particular setup right here, I'd probably have to book an entire podcast just to digest exactly what's going on, but that is one of the main reasons why Barn Gaming is so defensive favored, because of its architecture, and by nature it has a lot of destructibility. It facilitates a lot of really interesting and dynamic setups, exactly what the Randy Ravens are showing us this time around.
A tentative entry so far, it seems like. They've got lots of verticality to clear, lots of positions to fight against, and this shield, top of blue stairs, it's going to be a nightmare to clear. And so many angles are there. Dumfries gets swung by Deathly, who gets the opening kill of this round. And this is such a very efficient setup. As you push down towards this hallway, you are met by the player on that shield, this player in the airlock inside of that, and the balcony player. But definitely not long for this world as Yukio, via the K9 window, gets that trade-off. A late trade-off, but a trade-off nonetheless. Definitely in the forever box now. First Toxic Cancer tossed away. The second one now used. Finds a small few ticks of damage on the Rose, but delays the progression of this push from the Minutemen. And that could be a massive benefit to the defensive side, because all he must do now is burn away this time. And we now have less than a minute remaining. 55 seconds. But Age of Soul, hello! finds a great kill down in the lobby and perhaps could act as somewhat of a pressure relief valve. Give his team an option, a moment, a position to stand their ground and fight for this one, as they now have a foothold downstairs.
Indeed they do, and there's still quite a bit of roam presence to deal with on the top floor, but at the very least I believe that Minutemen can force them out, dislodge them from the top floor, and force them to actually reinforce the bomb site where it truly matters the most. Now that vertical control is in the hands of the Minutemen, they've got to shift their focus towards getting an execution in motion, and it's got to happen right now as there are only 20 seconds left to play with. And look at that, the hatches, they've basically been rendered ineffective as you can't drop through them, so they got to go down the stairs, exactly what Rose aims to accomplish. Shuts down Trash Waifu as there's only 8 seconds left on the clock. Perfect enough time for NJ Sauce to get the plant down, and it's not going to be shut down by iNoob. Instead, that's going to be Yukio. Clock now reset to 40 seconds, leaves iNoob in a 1v2 scenario. If he finds 2 kills, he also collects the dub for Randy Ravens. Now that he's taken down that castle barricade, he's trying to bait the Minutemen into thinking he's somewhere else entirely. Goes for the wide swing, but doesn't land the lethal shots onto the head of NSJ Sauce, and is able to just spray directly into Rose, shuts them down, but this defuse is going to be difficult to bait out, and he can't successfully do so. iNoob, unfortunately enough, he tried to pull a dirty one onto NSJ Sauce, but they know better. Just like that, Minutemen, they're not going down without a fight just yet, as they have found their 3rd round.
The finest of margins in that round, considering if he reacted, I believe, just a fraction of a second quicker to that audio cue of that window being broken and found that kill, I believe we would have been seeing this matchup end right there, right now. But that was the past. We cannot change it. 6-3 our scoreline. Minutemen. It's a long road. It's a long road to get through overtime.
Yeah,
but
a gap of 3 rounds is doable to close.
It is. And I like to bet for the underdog, right?
Who don't?
My adventures of going all in on Mirage every single time they play NAL is a great example of that. But Minutemen.
I wouldn't call Mirage the underdogs anymore. They made top 4. Let's be honest.
Okay, they were the underdogs. So, but Mirage, hear me out. Trade offer.
Okay, I'm hearing.
Bring this to overtime. Just create chaos. Bring absolute chaos to the standings. Upset result. Make Randy Ravens at bare minimum drop a point. Just
do
excitement. Do it. Just do it. Make things interesting.
Obviously, that, as we've stated numerous times, the last thing the Minutemen can do is disrupt the standings. That's what we want to see. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that last round right there, round number 9, bar and gaming defense from Minutemen, is actually a milestone for them, because that is the first time, if memory serves me correctly, that they're actually able to pick up a 3rd round throughout any one of the best of 1 series that we have seen tonight. All of their scorelines have been 7-1 or 7-2 losses, so they have effectively set a new benchmark for themselves.
I am going to try and find if that's true.
It is 100%. You can go ahead and check it out. Yeah.
My brain is reading numbers and thus melting, but yes, this is the highest round count they've got.
I think they can pop some champagne after this matchup, regardless as to how it actually ends. 3 rounds? Damn. That's quite all right. And I
very much
really
agree.
Yeah, and I certainly hope that there's more to come, because they are on the attack, arguably the favorite side on Chalet in this current climate, so hopefully they can still mount some success, but it's not going to start racking up just yet, as Deathly finds the entry into NSJ Sauce. Rose nearly had the jump on iNoob, or excuse me, iNoob nearly had the jump on Rose, but turns out things are vice versa, as it's currently opposite day.
That one caught me off guard.
It always does.
Opposite, just don't know why. Opposite day just broke my brain. But okay.
Yeah.
So Minutemen now 1 man down in terms of player count. Minute 30 left to work with. It's not going to be the easiest round to fight with. They haven't necessarily got a large amount of map control, and you see that. As a diffuser, stranded in no man's land. They have to recover that, and that's going to be a very critical part of this win condition. This repel position is known. Trash Waifu knows that there is a player repelling there and cannot move any more up the stairs, and is very intensively watching it in case he gets a moment to strike. Rose recovers that diffuser, gives a funnel, but
no!
Red, like a book, his comrade Barney swings around via that window and display, gets that kill, grows that advantage they hold in this round, and well, let's make that a 4 versus 1. Well, if you want to make a miracle, you gotta make it happen now. As Age of Saul, 4 versus 1, 45 seconds left in this round, and verticality might be his demise as the collapse, well, happens very, very rapidly indeed. As Randy Ravens claim round number 10, and they close out this chapter on Chalet and get themselves a victory, tying them at the very top of our standings with the Imperium of Mandem.
Indeed, they do, and this is an absolutely massive victory for the Randy Ravens. 3 points means that they do have somewhat of a safety net to actually work with come their next matchup next week as well. And unfortunately enough for the Minutemen, they couldn't deny a couple of points on the side of Randy Ravens, and certainly they did give it their all. For the first time this season, they were able to bag 3 rounds, but that's all we'll get to see from them this time around. But it was a match on Chalet. It was one that we thoroughly enjoyed, and we got to learn the map just a little bit more as well, so I can definitely speak to that being fun, all things considered.
Certainly was. I can never complain. It's always a super fun time to watch Chalet, and I mean, credit to Randy Ravens. You know, again, you're coming into a matchup, and you can never overlook your opposition. If they slipped up here, I don't think they would have heard the end of it on Twitter, judging from the Minutemen's results so far. But they were able to put on the result, get the victory at the end of the day, and they were able. That's what counts. Always progressing, always getting the points on the board, and that leaves them tied at number 1 with the Imperial Mandem in terms of points. But that's going to be the final game of this Playday. But remember, we've got games tomorrow, and they're going to be very important for the top dogs in these standings. It could be another monumental shake-up at the very top of this, and you could see a very interesting top 4 at the end of this week.
Regardless as to how exactly tomorrow's Playday or tomorrow's batch of matches actually does go, each and every single one of the last couple of weeks that we have here in BOL Season 2 before playoffs do come around is going to be action-packed, high pressure, and extremely tight between all of the teams that are basically in contention for top 4, as to which there are currently 6 by the looks of things. The Princesses on Lockdown Ludens, they're going to be playing tomorrow, and they're going to be going up against Team Triton and Coconut Cracked respectively. So those are some matches that you definitely don't want to miss. And obviously the Princesses at the start of tonight's Playday, they were at pole with 12 points, but since then, 2 teams have successfully overtaken them, so they still have a lot to play for, a lot of stature to regain as well. The action here at BOL, it's ongoing. It never stops.
Never does. It's always a relenting series of action-packed matchups, and well, that's why we love it. It's always why when I see that I'm booked in the cast, it's a highlight of my week. But I believe that's everything for this broadcast.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah, it's sad,
I could have definitely gone with just a tad bit more action as well. I've definitely still got at least one more cast in me, but unfortunately enough, we won't get that. But regardless, that is going to seal the deal for tonight's Playday as well. Tomorrow's matches that are lined up are going to be Team Triton versus the Coconuts, and that is going to be a very important match for Team Triton because they need those 3 points to boost themselves up back to 12. And the exact same thing goes for Lockdown Ludens and the Princesses, and that is going to be arguably one of the best matches that we will see throughout the entire season, taking place at 7 p.m. BST or 7 p.m. CES or 8 p.m. CST, if I'm not mistaken. But that is what the schedule looks like for the rest of week 6, and that is effectively going to, well, that's just going to round things up for us as well. Before we head off, any closing thoughts, any closing words from the birthday boy?
I mean, other than the fact, thanks for all the kind words from everyone in, all chatting the games, and anyone else that has dropped the message by. But it was a very entertaining Playday. I think I'm really looking forward to how this shapes up after results. We're looking at it now, because the top of this table is super tightly compact. Everyone is so close to each other, and I'm going to keep my eyes very much peeled on tomorrow's Playdays, because Princesses will be a match I very much suggest watching, because currently they're on 12 points right now. They're not holding on to that first place spot. And Lockdown Lutons have slowly and progressively been getting better and better on this season. And as we stand, they're on 11 points. They're a single point down, so that truly is a clash of two very closely packed up teams. And I think it's going to be fireworks all around.
It really, really is. I did completely forget. Didn't you say in the downtime that we had in between the matches that you would bring out the mouse pad for everyone to see and for everyone in Twitch had to see?
Oh.
Don't you want to show everybody exactly what you got as your birthday gift? I think everybody deserves to see it. It's quite the special one.
So right, there is context to all things. Basically, some people I know, some friends of mine, decided they were going to give me something for my 21st birthday. They opted to get me a desk pad, but they had to get it customized in some horrific way to make sure.
Naturally, yes.
To make sure I knew it was from them. So this was an abomination. I have to raise this above. This was the abomination that arrived. that arrived at my home, and
It's taller than you. Holy moly!
It is bigger than my entire desk. I cannot use it. I'll find a way. I'll put it in the backdrop of this, but
Yeah.
It's certainly been an interesting birthday.
You remember those BOAL backdrops that Peak was talking about? Scratch that. We don't need those. We need some custom made Whippet backdrops for us.
Oh,
and
please.
on that bomb please do it. On that bombshell, we're gonna close things off for tonight. We'd like to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Tomorrow, you've got McCready and Jerry walking you guys through the last batch of matches. But for now, that is going to round things up. I've been Two Doors alongside Whippet on the desk. Big shout out to both Noah and Science on observation and production. As always, we will catch you guys tomorrow for the conclusion of Week 6 here at BU Whale Season 2. Until then, take care, and we'll see you guys very, very soon.